Hey, I got people in the chat before I'm even live. What is going on? Now we got a super chat before stream even starts. Nah, I'm not that cruel yet. How do you do, everyone? It's Trixie the Golden Witch. I am a trans woman, turning 33 on August 8th. And I live in the United States of America. I've been taking estrogen by way of like a, it's not a balm, it's basically rubbing alcohol that's been infused with estrogen that you can take through your skin. I've been doing that for about 9 months, hence the growth of some amount of tit. So I'm here to talk about gender experience. I'm here to talk about being a double agent in the gender war, and I'm also here to get interrupted every time somebody sends me a super chat, because I've been looking at the numbers, and I think for now I'm considering this here streaming stuff as my full-time job, because I've made more money doing this for the last 2 weeks consistently than I have through my Patreon, which I you know, is a monthly rate. So you know, this is faster money, and I'm desperate. I don't have any money, none. Zilcho el money. It's possible, if I can't get, I will actually have to have Bird put funds into my bank account to avoid overdrafting on my phone bill. No, I won't. Actually, my YouTube money from last month will come in before then, but I will barely avoid overdrafting my bank. And that's pretty much been the state of things for several years now. So, you know, anything I can do to get myself out of the hole, you know, this seems like the thing that's working the fastest. And I just need that speed weed, you know what I'm saying? I gotta hit there as quick as possible. So this is the best method. So keep them super chats coming. But for now, I'm just gonna interrupt my train of thought anytime a super chat comes in to when did YouTube streaming become what Periscope used to be? I don't know. I literally don't know when this happened. I only know about this meta because of the fact that Mint Salad blew up through this just recently. So, you know, I was on her big Saturday night C2E2 stream that had like 100,000 views by the time it was over. And I saw that happen and I went, well, this is my type of market, like this is my type of content. I really enjoyed being on her stream. So, you know, I don't know if I could ever pull Mint Salad numbers without having Mint Salad visual appeal in my videos. But look at this cool shirt. I got some cool shirts. And I walked through some cool places. Justice with $2, thank you. Thoughts on /LGBT, referring to the 4chan board. I went there a little bit when I first started transition to kind of scope the culture, but it's just very self-defeatist. Like, it's a lot of people being hyper judgmental of themselves. And this is the biggest problem I have with the trans community. It's like everyone is comparing themselves to ideals that are like ridiculous. I guess this is a problem in America in general. It's a lot of what leads, especially with women. This is probably a bigger problem for trans women than it is for trans men. I don't know for sure, because I don't know as many trans men, and there's fewer of them on the LGBT board, at least when I was on there, like 4 years ago. And I haven't really been on since. I haven't really been to 4chan since then. It kind of seems dead. You know, it's kind of old hat now, but you know, I was kind of just using that board because I was transitioning and wanted to be like, what is 4chan's take? And it's not that different from their take on anything else. You're gonna get most of the negative perspective first. And like, I am somebody who, I know how to dig through all the negativity to find all the good stuff. So I kind of plundered all the useful information quickly, and then, you know, wasn't interested in continuing to participate in the culture there. And when I talk about like the unrealistic self-expectations, like trans people, there's just a lot of like guilt in the trans community, And I understand it, I relate to it, but I also think that I think there's too many people who are like embracing the guilt, who are not like looking at it as a problem that like a thing that's been inflicted on them by a wrongful society, as opposed to something they are doing wrong. And that's just something I've never been religious, and I've always been raised in an environment that criticizes society. So I have always had it in mind that there's certain things I feel guilty about, but they're more personal. It's not that I feel guilty because society tells me I should. And I think there's too many trans people, especially in places like 4chan, where it's just like a place where people go to abuse themselves, basically. So yeah, the guilt play is too much for me there, is basically what I'm trying to say. Another super chat from One Man Cast, thank you very much, with $5. I don't have more than this. Loved your content for a decade. Hopefully this helps. It helps a ton. And hey, if you don't have a lot of money, you don't need to send it to me. I understand. Butthole Weave has contributed a lot of money to my streams. I literally want to tell him, do not super chat me, Butthole Weave. I see you on Twitter talking about how you've got more Japanese yen than you have American dollars right now. I don't need your American dollars if you can't afford to send them to me. I might be broke, but I have a roof over my head at the very least. I know you do too, Butthole Weave. You're not in that kind of danger, but I'm just saying, spend your money more wisely if you really need it. But I do appreciate every dollar does count. I gotta set up a Streamlabs link or whatever makes it so YouTube takes a smaller cut of the amount that people send in, so that people who are sending in, who maybe aren't like rich, know that I'm getting every dollar of it. And it's not just going to Google for like a third of it or whatever. Anyway, let's talk about the gender war, and let's talk about my place in it. I want to talk about how I got involved in the gender war at a young age, and how my place in it has always been very confusing. There's a bunch of tassels and shit. Let me look at this. The other day when I was streaming here, there was like some kind of birthday happening, and they had all this shit set up, and I was I didn't move past like that point because I didn't want to interrupt the birthday happening, but it looks like they just left all their shit up. There's a massive balloon cluster in the woods that was not there before. So this party left a big old mess. Maybe I'll do something about this. I could take some of this stuff down, clean up my local forest like a good citizen, good patriot or whatever. Anyway, I've been involved in the gender war for a very long time. I'm going to talk about my perspective. This is my Real Ass Perspective podcast. I'm going to be rapping. So, in the early years of my life, I only really remember having any kind of influence from my mom. Like, I don't remember anybody really leaving any kind of impression on me at all, other than my mom, until I was like at least 3, maybe 4 years old. I started to like register my dad, and the first thing, the earliest memories I can remember, the earliest shit I can remember of my dad is when he taught me how to play poker with him. And so I made, I would beat him in poker, and he had a monetary debt to me over poker games. And he would take that money when he didn't have enough cash to go buy cigarettes and promise to pay me back double. Eventually, he racked up a $55 debt to me. And I think I was probably 5, maybe 4, when I spent all that money on Power Ranger toys that were disappointing, because the place where we were at when my dad told me this is the place where we're going to spend that money, they didn't really have good toys. So I just kind of spent the money frivolously, thinking it was the only chance I had on toys that sucked. This has nothing to do with gender. This is just first things I can remember. My relationship with my dad. Um, Mostly about being a business person, I guess. That sort of remains true. But my personality, my understanding of the world, my understanding of myself, that was all shaped by my relationship with my mom. And I basically saw myself as not being any different from her or wanting to be any different from her, except in the one singular fact that I am supposedly had been a boy. And that didn't really mean anything to me other than that it was something that is different between me and my mom. But that was my mom had never told me that that meant anything other than what it is. You know, she never said, oh, you behave this way as a boy, or you can't behave this way as a boy. It was just, you're just a boy because you have been born with those genitals, you know, so there you go, you're a boy. It's like, oh, all right, so that's what a boy is, right? So that's all I understood of the concept of a boy or a girl up until, and I didn't really encounter a lot of other people in my youth. My parents moved a whole lot, so I was probably around more like people my parents' age than people my age. I had a couple of cousins who were girls that I remember hanging out with and never noticing any difference between myself and them, you know? I remember even a couple years later, like seeing pictures of all of us like hanging out, just like all being in the same bath together, and like to me hadn't even registered that there had been like a difference in what we were, you know? So to me there was no substantial difference between a boy and a girl until I started school and people started telling me that I was a girl. Not that I looked like a girl, that I must be a girl because of how I looked. And it was always girls. It was always girls pushing the issue. And when I look back on it, I kind of see this more as, I don't know, this would have been a difficult thing to navigate. Like, let's say that I had self-identified as a girl at the time, and then I had communicated with girls, and they had eventually realized that, you know, I was different in some way that maybe they considered foundational. Would they have seen this as a betrayal, you know? I have no idea. At the time, I just was like, what the hell are you talking about? I'm a boy, you know? I just had no... Where'd I get this shirt? At Otakon. Someone's booth. Their signature's on here somewhere, I think. I'm not sure. It's just like from the artist who drew it at a booth at Artist Alley. Anyway, reminder, you can interrupt my train of thought to have me rant about something else if you want at any time. Maybe this is super interesting though. I went to Otakon. I've been to Otakon a bunch of times. Probably like 7 times. This was not the most recent Otakon. This was like, I've had this shirt for a while. Anyway, probably like 4 years. Maybe even 5, I can't remember exactly. Anyway, when I was a kid, like, I had multiple times where there were girls who reacted very strongly to me telling them that I was a boy, and them being like suddenly shocked or afraid, like as though they had been told to keep away from boys, and so when they realized I was one, then they were like, uh-oh, you know? Or just like they wouldn't be convinced. I'd be like, I don't know what to tell you that would make you understand that just because I have like a little bit of longer hair than other boys, like, but I really didn't get it as a kid, like how much I was like a girl. Not in the sense of, just in like the cultural sense of behavior that's expected. You know, that I was quiet and shy and demure, and I hated sports, and I hated all forms of pain, and I didn't like being touched. And, you know, I usually had long hair, very like bright lips, my nails always looked good, and I never really understood that growing up until girls started asking me if I was getting manicures, and I'm like, no, I don't know why you think this, but like, it was just other people constantly insisting that I was feminine, and I didn't even understand why. I didn't get it. I was just like, what about this is like a girl? But as I grew up, and being a kid in the 90s who was watching a lot of TV, a lot of gender became codified to me through advertising. And that was the period when gender confusion really started to spring up for me, because of the fact that I was a lot more drawn to the stuff that's marketed towards girls, like on like a raw level of like seeing the ad and wanting the like raising a baby toy or whatever, you know? And then because it's marketed for girls, feeling like, well, that's not for me, so I can't enjoy that, you know? I have another super chat here from Justice for $5. I have noticed that many content creators who are active in the Brony community eventually came out as LGBT. What are your thoughts on that? Oh, I think there's a huge connection there. Well, and the Brony movement, it actually, it's a pretty good metaphor for what I experienced throughout my life, because there was, on the one hand, a lot of people who are very insistent on the masculinity of being a Brony, that like it is manly to embrace your femininity, and so it reinforces your manhood to be capable of, you know, admitting that something is good even if it's feminine. And then there's the people who were like, this is making me realize that I'm a woman, you know, and or just breaking down gender barriers in people's minds that you know, existed about what they're allowed to like. And like for me, part of the reason I was able to sort of lead the charge on being really analytical about My Little Pony is that I had already encountered these thoughts and feelings through magical girl anime. To me, My Little Pony was just Heartcatch Precure 2 years later, you know, like, and so that's how it felt in my mind, and that's how I was able to interpret it and translate it to other people. And like most of the discussion, because I was also late to the Brony community and to doing like videos about the stuff. The show started in 2010. It's the community really blew up in 2011 and 2012, and I became a big part of it mostly in 2013. I started like right at the end of 2012. And so when I met all the people who were already like, you know, big in the Brony community, most of them were people who had kind of taken this as like a period of discovery. It was like a coming of age for them, where they were realizing things about themselves and what it means to be whatever type of person they are, whether that was realizing that they were LGBT, just finding a community in like their own unique experience of gender. This was also like heavily tied into Tumblr, like the whole Brony, like the deep tier of the Brony community was mostly very like, you know, we were all on Tumblr. So like that was also where the gender movement sort of really picked up steam, and also the social justice movement, and like just a lot of stuff that dealt with themes of gender war or gender dysphoria even came up during this period. And so yeah, a lot of the people that I knew who were Bronies, you know, started off like, ah yes, I'm so manly that I can even admit I like girly things, and then eventually we're like, I'm a woman. I was closer to the I'm a woman side from the start, but it was in the sense, I had a video called Embracing Girliness early on. And I will stress, when I was a Brony, my audience was more female than male, at least by YouTube statistics. So, which changed forever when I started on anime. I have never been anywhere close to that ratio again. It's always been like 15% women as opposed to 55 back when I was doing Brony stuff. So I really need to emphasize that, like, as much as Bronies implies that like it was about guys being into My Little Pony, as many older girls were into the show as older guys were. And so many of those guys transitioned that you might as well just regard it as a mostly female phenomenon, that, you know, guys who either are really insecure and really insistent that, no, I'm totally manly for liking this, or are really not insecure and go, yeah, this doesn't challenge my manhood, but I appreciate what's good about it. Like, all of that spectrum of people liked what is at its core definitely a feminine phenomenon. And you know, for someone like me, part of my investment was that, yeah, I was already in this stage of my life of trying to stop creating a sense of otherness between myself and feminine content, and doing that out of insecurity towards the fact that I felt like I'm not allowed in the conversation of just women, period. That, like, because I grew up in this way where I considered myself a boy, and because people were so insistent that the way I was made me not a boy, I became very anti-girl for like a lot of my childhood. And when I was in my teens, I realized I was being ridiculous, but I didn't know how to turn the ship around. You know, like, I had gotten so far. I was basically an incel when I was 8, you know, like, so by the time I was 14 and I realized I really wanted to be not like that, I didn't know what to do other than just talk to women on the internet a lot, you know? And so I spent a lot of time interviewing women about their experiences, basically, and trying to understand, like, what is the difference between a man and a woman? What makes this gap so big that it's been such a fucking, you know, such a presence in my life, this gender war, even just within my own mind? Like, what is compelling that? And the answer I've mostly come away with, like, what is compelling it, is that on both sides, when it comes to both men and women, there is a lot at stake in preserving the idea of their differences. And it's all very situational. Like, consider how each different relationship, religion, considers the relationship of gender, right? Like, whatever power structure is written into the text of that religion, you know, it is kept in place because it empowers someone on, you know, usually the men, if we're talking about religion. But, like, usually the men if we're talking about most systems, because men are generally bigger and stronger and can just take the power if they want it. But, you know, it's the people who really want there to be an emphasis on the difference that perpetuate the gender war. And they're the people who make it really difficult for someone like me, because on the one hand, I now am old enough and have enough experience and have traveled enough and have met enough people that I've met a substantial number of people who do not think that their gender makes them especially different from people of the opposite gender, regardless of their identity. Like, not trans people, just women and men who think that they are not that fundamentally different from one another. And also those who, even if they do think they're different, understand, like, how there is a possibility that someone could be closer to the borderline, you know, in terms of what society thinks that a man or a woman is supposed to be, and how that can be a struggle or frustrating, and they can be accommodating to that. And so whenever I encounter somebody who can't be accommodating to that, who's putting a lot of stock into the idea that men and women are different, it's because there's something they're trying to uphold, some kind of power structure. And, you know, that's the part where anytime I encounter somebody who's, like, tremendously transphobic, I'm really wondering, like, what are you trying to hold in place? Like, what is in this for you? Because there's not, like, there's people who will pretend that men and women are so inherently different that putting them in the same spaces is going to naturally cause problems. And it's just provably untrue. Like, it only seems true to people who don't go to spaces where there is gender mixing and there's no problems, you know? And those people are the ones who are going to cause problems. There was a video recently of a trans woman leaving a bathroom in a college, and some woman just, like, breaks out a camera, starts filming her and accosting her and, like, why are you in here? This isn't the right place. And it's like, Why are you caught? Like, this person was doing nothing. She was using the bathroom. And this woman comes and, has to make a big deal out of it. It's like, you're making a scene, and I don't know if her expectation was that she was going to rile this trans woman up or get a reaction, but she just looked fucking terrified and defeated and like she wanted to die right then and there, And I was like, damn, if somebody did that to me, I would be crushed. Like, my instinct tells me to act tough and say like, oh, I wouldn't take that lying down, but no, I would, because like being in the situation, what the fuck are you supposed to do? Just be shamed and fucking walk out. Like, it's just a terrible thing to do to someone. And the person who created a situation was the person who decided that there's a meaningful difference that excludes a trans woman from being in a bathroom with a woman, which to me is just fucking insane. And this is me speaking as somebody who has used hundreds of bathrooms of either gender all over the country, because I have to piss a lot. As you know, if you watch my streams, I constantly have to mute and go piss. I travel all the time. I have no choice. I really do pick what bathroom I use based on how I look in that moment. If I'm dressed really feminine, it's not a good idea to walk into the fucking men's room. That's tremendously dangerous and bad for me. Like, I'm concerned about my safety. So, if I'm even close to passing, I'm definitely using the women's room. If I have an option, I always use the family restroom or gender neutral bathroom if that exists. I'm always relieved to find that there is one, because if there's not, I have to seriously make a decision. And like, the only reason I'm comfortable to go in the men's room is I was doing it for 28 years before I ever, started transition. But the men's room was always a really uncomfortable place for me, because you never know what kind of stall situation there's going to be. I went into a men's room recently because I didn't think I was passing. I think, oh, well, I don't want to spook someone in the ladies' room, so I'm going to go in the men's room. And there was a trough bathroom. I was very lucky, urinal, I mean. Very lucky to be the only person in there, but if anyone had been in there, I would have seen some dude's dick right then and there. I don't want that. That's just not, I don't understand the comfort with that, but I've never had it. I was a Cub Scout for a couple years. Never ascended to Boy Scouts. I did not want the association of being called a Boy Scout. And a lot of the focus of the Boy Scouts was on camping. And I had taken a couple of week-long camping trips, and when you do that, they have showers that are all group showers. I refused. I would not use the group showers. I felt like fucking just gross garbage by the end of the week. And I was never a huge bather as a kid, but even a week is a bit much for me. And, especially when you're in the fucking woods. But I just was not going to be in a room full of naked boys. Like, I don't know. I don't know why that's uncomfortable to me, And I wouldn't go into the women's shower either if it was full of, I just would want to have my own private shower, But my point is, like, the women's bathroom is never a place that you're ever going to run into a guy's fucking dick out, because they're all individual stalls. And the men's room is the only place where you'll encounter a trough urinal. So, yeah. This is the kind of shit where I'm just like, when they talk about, like, this whole bathroom conflict, I'm like, y'all aren't even really picturing the situation in your mind. Like, even when I was growing up, when I identified as a boy, I have had multiple times where I went to the men's room and was told I was in the wrong bathroom by adult men who were like, whoa, you're in the wrong place. I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm using the urinal. That was me as a kid. Like, imagine me dressed in like a fucking sundress going into the men's room. Like, I don't know. People aren't using their minds when they talk about this shit. Super chat from Throwwad. for $9.99. Thank you very much. Yo, I owe you at least this much. Thanks for vlogging. I missed that a lot. I'm going to keep the gravy train going. I'm enjoying it. I'm glad people are regarding this as vlogging. I guess when I used to vlog, my vlogs were so fucking long that it wasn't that different from hours-long live streams. But I could not do it like this before. I really couldn't. Transition has been a powerful thing for me in terms of my presence. I just have presence of mind in a way I really didn't. It's hard for me to talk about usually, but I have a lot of dissociative tendencies where like I just zone out. I really do like stop existing for parts of the day, you know, like I've been described by some people as like watching paint dry, as I've said before. So like IRL, off camera, I'm boring. And hello. Mustering up the energy to do like a whole, I'm gonna be on camera and talk for hours on end. Like I knew I was gonna be doing this all day. I woke up fucking 8 in the morning. It took me till 3 p.m. to get myself into the headspace that I'm actually going to go walk around streaming. And part of that is like figuring out what am I going to talk about? What's going on in the world? What would be interesting? What's interesting to me? What have other people in my community been up to? You know, what's the word out on the streets? And also, I need to shower. I need to shave. I need to get dressed, figure out an outfit, figure out what the weather's like. Oh, it happens to be raining all day. Well, maybe I can walk around in the woods and keep myself shaded from the rain. Really didn't expect other people to be out here, but I've run into a couple. Another super chat from June for $9.99. Thank you very much. I'm worried about my safety speaks to some of the fundamental difference between women and men. Societies have to deal with the worst/dumbest people, hence boundaries that seem stupid/cause problems. This is true. Also another 1 pound from J-Man. Thank you very much. Yeah, it's so strange to me because, well, it's just a matter of perspective on like what is a transgender person. Like there are people out there who they have it in their mind that the only reason that a person, like that a man would dress up as it's always trans women. I don't know if trans men just pass their way right into the stalls or what. I don't know how it works. I've almost never clocked a trans man before, as sad as it is to say. But, you know, of trans women, I mean, including myself. But like, when it comes to the bathroom thing, shit, I really feel so bad about just even saying that. I forgot what I was saying. Yeah, like, so there's a lot of people with the perspective that they're thinking a man is dressing as a woman to get into the bathroom. The only reason they would do that is to do something lewd. And I'm like, no, the reason I would do that is to protect myself because I don't feel safe in the men's room. Like, for the same reasons you don't. For the same reasons every other woman does not want to be in the men's room. The men's room is weird and gross, and I don't think most women even really understand the difference because they haven't probably been in the men's room, and they don't have like decades of psychological trauma associated with their use of the men's room. So they really don't get what they're asking, you know? But like from a trans woman's perspective, it's like, you really want me like a 5'8", 130 pound, you know, person in a dress with tits to walk into a room full of, you know, 6.5 foot, 400 pound truckers swinging their dicks around. That is essentially a men's room in a lot of places a lot of the time, you know? It's always been a gross, threatening environment to me. So the women's room does not feel that way. Again, it's a bunch of stalls. Everything, you don't fucking have to see anybody in the women's room. The only time the women's room is uncomfortable is when fucking teenage girls hang out in there and talk because they decided that it's a safe space and therefore they can fucking giggle and do drugs and be obnoxious. And I'm sure that's annoying to all women, not just trans women. But you know, teenagers are teenagers. I really got off on the bathrooms thing, but it's an issue that's very personal to me as a huge time bathroom user. The existence of anything gender neutral, any kind of family bathroom, again, always a blessing. I cannot sing the praises. And the gender neutral bathroom is usually a single person bathroom. You know, like, I think there's a sort of, there's now like a conception of the gender neutral bathrooms from like conventions where they just convert, you know, one of the men's rooms into a gender neutral room. And those are fine. People, you know, I actually don't think I have used one at a convention. But I know my brother told me, he was like, yeah, it's go in there and there's guys and girls in there. It's odd. And I was like, well, I'm fine with the single stall family restroom that I can have all to myself. Thank you very much. Whenever such a thing is available. But maybe that's just me being greedy. Wanting all the space to myself, taken away from children. Families need to use that family room. Ain't never no goddamn family. No, sometimes they're in use. I'm trying to find a place I can pee where I don't think anybody's gonna come see me. I had to get deep into the woods. These trails, they're biking trails, but I almost never see anybody biking on them. Usually people are hiking. But when you run into people, it's usually very sudden. It's like, oh shit, I didn't know there was gonna be somebody here. But there's certain pathways that get really deep that I know nobody ever takes. So I'm trying to get to one of those spots so I can take a piss. That's why I love pissing in the woods so much. Ever since I was a kid, I realized I don't have to worry about any of this shit if I piss outside. I'm gonna mute. Hey, as soon as I got back, there's a new super from Dude with $9.99. Thank you. Thoughts on how 4chan is the epicenter of so much internet culture? EX, Chad Virgin meme existing years before exploding everywhere else, race, politics, alpha male shit, MOG, etc., etc. Yeah, I mean, it's just been around forever. And for a long time was one of the wow, I'm in a really pretty part of this woods. Like, so for me, being a long time internet person, I have been on the internet longer than 4chan has existed, so I know most of its existence, even though I wasn't using it from the start. And like, when it first developed a reputation, it was both as the most disturbing place on the internet and also as one of the most influential. Like right from the beginning, it was already hyper influential. And I also think it has been considered compromised on different levels over and over again over the years, where I think there was very quickly an exodus of like the first trolls who were using it to create like 8chan and other shit like that. And then just continually, as it kept getting more known and as the internet kept growing, like more and more people kept just leaving it to go to other places. And now it's really just a nostalgia thing, I think. Like it's people keeping the same old memes alive and shit just because they don't know how to do anything else. You know, it's as bad as any other nostalgia property at this point. Like if I were to catch myself on 4chan, I know it would purely be because I just like want to see the images laid out that way again. You know, like it's something, it's part of my development, so it can't just escape me entirely. But I was not into it initially. I had friends who were in school who would go on B and look at all the gross memes, and like so many of the early gross memes come from B. Tub girl, shitting dick nipples, don't look any of this up. It was always full of fucking underage nudes, because they would get taken down immediately, but they would show up all the time. So like, it's just a clusterfuck. It was very, very illegal place before it got like, you know, bought out by sponsors and shit like that. So I was terrified of it. Everything I knew of its reputation was bad. And I wanted nothing to do with it until like 2007, when I started catching on to the anime and manga board, because eventually you learn that 4chan, even though B is like B was constant. If you were on B, there was always stuff happening. So to most people, 4chan was B, which is the random board. But if you were on literally any other board, it was way slower. There was more of a culture. It was still a rancid place, but there was some level of a culture. And like the best thing about 4chan, especially about A, and this is now true of most of the internet, so this isn't special anymore, but at the time, it was very special that you could find someone who knew what you were talking about on 4chan almost no matter what. Like, you could go bring up some fucking obscure anime from the 80s that no one's ever talked about, and somebody was going to show up and be like, yeah, I like that show, you know, or post a relevant meme in response. And so to me, I always felt like a sense of community with like the deepest tier people, in that, you know, even if most of the people on 4chan kind of sucked, you knew that there were some people lurking in the wings who were cool and who knew all the good shit. And that if you really tried to find the information you want, you can find good information there. But over time, all of that information got consolidated down into infographics. So there came a point where I think the sort of climax of 4chan culture was when every board, Jesus, I've got an airplane and the fucking rain picking up at the same time. I don't know if you can see that, but it flew directly over me, and it was one of those like drone propeller planes. I don't know if I'm being monitored by the government or something, but it flew right over my head. That was fun. Surprised I didn't cut my connection off. Anyway, God, that was ominous. What the fuck was I talking about? 4chan. That's why they're after me. I'm talking about 4chan. It's like talking about Fight Club. I shouldn't have done this. No, 4chan is so dead. Yeah, I really think there was a point where basically every board consolidated itself down to a recommendation chart. I have all of those charts. I've got like hundreds of recommendation charts from Mew and A and VG and Lit, you know, any board that was about a topic, and they eventually just they boiled their taste down to a chart, and I went, all right, cool, check this out. Hype. So yeah, like, I would say once I had all the charts, it stopped feeling like there was anything left to plunder from 4chan, but they made a lot happen. They made a lot happen. It's impossible to credit everything. It was the epicenter of internet culture for like a solid 8 years. I would say like from like 2000 to 2008, most memes were coming from 4chan. And I would say it's just YouTube that took it away. Like, YouTube became faster audio-visual media. Like, the power of 4chan was that it was images and text. And you could blast yourself with tons of images and text, you know, in short form. But, like, you got Twitter for doing basically the same thing. And then you got YouTube for taking that to the next level where you had instant video. And I just think 4chan couldn't compete with that anymore. Post, like, 2008. Lost its relevance, sold out, traded hands a few times, you know. And now it's a nostalgia property. All right, I've got another super chat from Pascalium for £10. I think maybe a lot of the problem is the irrelevant trans/cis distinction causing people to feel there are real and fake women and real and fake men when anyone who identifies as a woman is one. Interesting. I don't really have opinions on, like, to me, cis seems like it just refers to anybody who doesn't identify as trans. You know, I don't buy into Elon Musk's narrative that it's a fucking slur. I don't think it's ever been used that way. Some people will say cis scum, but the insult is scum, not cis. You know, like, if you don't addend something onto it, I don't think it stands as an insult by itself. However, some trans people may, I'm sure some of them mean it that way, but they're being obtuse to imply that being cis is an insult in and of itself. But nonetheless, I guess I could see where you're coming from, in that you're basically arguing that it's the distinction, like, that some people, like, you have to pick a side is almost what cis implies. Like, you have to pick cis or trans. Obviously, we've got, like, non-binary, and I don't know, the whole conversation, all the labels are annoying to me. I've picked up trans as a label because it helps. Like, the labels are good when they help to explain what the fuck is going on, and then they're bad as soon as they stop helping to explain what the fuck is going on. And even for me, trans is a challenging label, and I'll say, like, the way that I communicate or describe myself is so circumstantial. Wow, I don't remember this path. I'm on a part of the path maybe I've never taken it in this direction. This would be scary to bike on, actually. It's very hilly. Maybe it would be really fun, actually. But, yeah, like, if, you know, I guess if none of the bathrooms had genders, there'd be no issues to begin with, right? But I don't think that, like, I don't think gender is entirely bunk as an idea. I just think it should be considered more of an aesthetic, or, like, choice isn't the right word. Like, when I'm confronted with the men's room, women's room dilemma, right? Like, most people are looking at it like, this decision was made for me. I am what I am, and so I have to go into the room of my designation. But my contention with that is that I feel uncomfortable with the men's room. I don't feel uncomfortable in the women's room. I've never observed my presence making anyone uncomfortable in the women's room. So I have a hard time, like, accepting the idea that, like, and again, I try to avoid it if I don't think I'm passing, and even that's just me. That's me basically putting myself through extra pain on behalf of not wanting to just cause a scene that will cause me even more pain. You know, I don't want to be reminded if there are bigots who are going to be upset with me. You know, I don't want to encounter it. So I'm just going to nip it in the bud and just have a somewhat, you know, gross experience. But again, I'm used to it. I'm at an age where it's hard for me to get, like, all emotional about having to use the men's room. Granted, this will probably change the more feminine my body looks, you know, like, if I finish the laser hair removal and have a big old set of boobs, it's gonna be real hard to convince me to use the men's room, regardless of not having had any kind of bottom surgery. Like, I just can't imagine walking into the men's room and not expecting at least that it's going to be a weird, like, it's not that I don't think I could see. I've known women with the wherewithal to walk into the men's room, pop in, especially if you got kids or something, maybe you're trying to help your kid into the fucking bathroom. But like, I'm just saying, if I'm a woman by myself in particular, I would feel weird about it. Especially if it depends on the place. I guess maybe I'd just be more thoughtful about where I used the bathroom even. I'm a little bit thoughtful. No, I'm pretty thoughtful. I just know what I'm doing. It would be nice to know that other people would have an easier route towards making the discoveries I've made about, like, I don't know, what's possible to do in this world as a trans woman. It would also be nice to have those possibilities expanded with less concern for my safety. Okay. I don't want implants. Another plane, really? The sky was too blown out to really get a good look at it, but it flew over me again. I mean, I'm probably just right next to the base where those go to. But yeah, I've already grown an amount of breast tissue just from using estrogen. I don't know how long it'll go. I don't know how everyone's naturals grow to different sizes, including trans women. It's hard to know until years have passed of using estrogen and they haven't made a move for a while or something. I know my mom's boobs they never really stopped growing, I think, because, like, I remember her having way smaller boobs when I was a kid than she has now. But, I don't know. I just plan to keep taking a lot of estrogen all the time and see what happens. But having implants is, I wouldn't be concerned about them popping, but they don't have feeling. Like, there's no connection between the thing that they insert in you and your body with which you could feel that thing. So it's just kind of like your skin stretched over. You lose all feeling in your tits, pretty much. So, like, I feel like you have to be somebody who doesn't like having your tits played with to even want implants, So that's strange to me. I don't know if I don't know if it's as bad as I think it is, but that's how it's been explained to me, is that you cannot feel them. It's similar with, like, having bottom surgery. It's like they don't implant a vagina in you. They turn your penis inside out. I have not a strong interest in that. I understand how that could be something some people will take as an option because they really, really hate their penis and they're, like, going to keep hurting themselves about it unless they get rid of it. I'm not like that. I am a little more, feel a little bit just, I don't know. I don't hate my body. I hate that my body defines my social standing in such a way, Like, to me, transgenderism is less about being recognized as a woman and more about being recognized as somebody who wants to be treated like a woman. And this is kind of what I mean when I get into how there's a big difference to me between people who don't understand transness and people who don't respect it. And I've encountered very few people who out and out don't respect it. Plenty of people who don't understand it or don't recognize it, just don't know enough to even consider it. I've met people I suspect don't respect it but are just being quiet about it. But I've only had a couple of run-ins with people who outright challenged the notion of my transness. And as I explained before, they were all people who had a stock in preserving the idea of what is a woman. For an example, I lived for about 6 months with my uncle, who is a crazy son of a bitch, a raging alcoholic, and a real dick. Who flip-flops on how respectful he is of my trans identity based on how drunk he is and how much of a prick he's deciding to be that day. But he has a wife of a few years, maybe 10 years by now actually, who when I moved in with him, he was telling me they were definitely getting divorced. Like, that she was not welcome in his house. This wasn't true. She was around all the fucking time. And she would fuck up stuff or just kind of act like a fucking bitch. And she would always try to excuse it as because she's a woman. Like, she can't help herself because she's a woman. And so she always just leveraged this, like, her womanhood in the relationship as, like, her excuse for why she can't help herself but to suck. Which to me is, like, a very chauvinistic perspective to have on yourself as a woman. Like, and the funniest thing about it is I could tell it was rooted in insecurity over being a very masculine woman. She was taller than me, bigger than me, could definitely kick my ass. She rode horses, took care of horses. She was a cowgirl. They got married in a barn. She was bigger than my uncle. She still is. I mean, she is. They're both alive. This didn't happen that long ago. But when I first moved in, she just kept trying to start fights with me. And it's the same shit she would do to him, where she would start attacking his manhood and basically trying to bait him into getting into an altercation with her so that she could call the police. And she tried to do this to me. Now I, being a soft bitch, was never going to raise a hand to this woman. But I did say some very mean things to her, and she grabbed me by the hair. She tried to start a fight with me. I never raised a limb, because I was just sitting there like, I can see what you're trying to do. You're trying to, you think that, first of all, you think I'm a man, and second of all, you think that all men are violent psychopaths, because you are projecting your own violent psychopathy onto them and trying to activate it out of them to give you an excuse to behave the way that you behave. But because you see that as masculine behavior, you have to bring it out of other people so that you can't be blamed. It was a wild, wild experience. So that taught me a lot about this whole gender war, about the attitude of women who don't accept trans women. It's that they think there is something inherent about having a penis or vagina that causes the way that they are. And that if anybody else who has a penis or vagina like themselves acts differently, that challenges the notion of it, and so those people become discluded. And this includes gays, this includes, like, you know, anything that challenges the status quo. With men, it's especially gays. Like, men, they find being gay to be a challenge to their masculinity, and so they reject it, you know, just as a matter of course. And this is a big problem that I have growing up as well, is that, you know, I as a kid, the only understanding I had of being gay is that it's a thing you don't want to be. It's a thing you get made fun of for. I knew it was what happens when boys want to have sex with other boys, and that if you are that, it's bad. Now, when I was ages, I'm going to say 6 through 9, 69, my two best friends were both gay boys. None of us knew. None of us were out of the closet as children. So, like, the one house I lived in for a longer time than any other, I lived there for 4 years, and my two best friends, like, everybody else knew, You know, it was the sort of thing where like one of them would get called gay all the time, and I would stick up for it. I'd be like, no, he's not gay. I think he knew he was gay and that this actually hurt for him. Like he wanted to be defended for being gay, probably, not for not being gay. But he was very insistent that he wasn't, and I was very insistent that he wasn't, you know. My other friend, I don't think he realized till later, but he was always hanging out with girls and stuff all throughout elementary school. So these are my two best friends, and, you know, I would like literally wish on a star to become a girl so that I could be with my friend, because I just thought it wouldn't be acceptable for me as a boy to be with him, you know. Now this is before I had sexual attraction, so this wasn't like this didn't register to me as like, oh, I want to have sex with him, so I need to be a girl to make that happen or anything like that. It was just like, I'm romantically attracted to this person, I'm in love with this person because they're my best friend, but I couldn't, you know, I would have to be a woman for that to work out, because otherwise it would be gay, and you can't be gay. So that was my perspective on being gay as a kid. Now, later in life, this led me to really wondering, like, am I still afraid of being gay? The answer is no. And I identify now as LGB and T. All of it. Just all four. Because what really became a struggle for me when I first realized that gender was a question for me and a difficulty for me was in high school, when I started high school, when I was 14. And up until that point, I looked like a little girl, just a little tiny, little long-haired kid who was always the shortest kid in my class, always the skinniest kid in my class, just a tiny kid. And I suddenly sprung up violently. I still have stretch marks all over from just growing so much taller so quickly. I got like the slightest bit overweight, you know, skinny fat. But it was like devastating to me, and I didn't like recover from that until in my late 20s, like finally transitioning. Just because, you know, my self-image had been so tied to being small, long-haired, feminine, and like I think I was on the cusp through anime of accepting femininity as a part of me through a combination of like, you know, more feminine characters that were considered men in anime, as well as just relating to some of the female characters in anime. But once I became sexually active, well, not active, but, you know, once my sexuality was activated and I realized I was attracted to both men and women, that made things way more complicated, because it wasn't like a simple matter of being gay or even bisexual. It's the way I wanted to be in those relationships, you know, that I saw as the way that a woman would be. And again, I don't think this is in any way endemic to being a woman. It's just my perception on a social level of what is a woman's place in a relationship. That's the place I want, you know? And I understood that from when I was like 14. But it was, to me, just taboo. You know, to me it's like, oh, this is some kind of perversion, or, you know, I had no concept of a trans person back then. Like, I knew that there were people who had transitioned gender, but I only thought of it as a surgical thing. And like, I just thought it was like, yeah, you go to the doctor and they can, you know, you spend a certain amount of money and now you're a different gender. Like, that was my whole perspective on it. So I basically looked at it like, unless I was so committed to changing gender that I would literally, you know, go to all that trouble to have all that surgery, then I would never identify differently. And I didn't, that perspective did not change for me until I was in my late 20s. And I swear to God, as much as people hate when I say this, Mr. Medicare's video called How the Sausage is Made had a big part in encouraging me to transition, because it's a video about the truth of trans surgery. And even though it's obviously meant to be negative about it, I just simply didn't know those truths. And it reached into the community that I was a part of at the time in a way that reached me and made me go, oh, I don't have to get surgery to transition, because it doesn't any more meaningfully turn you, quote unquote, into a woman than, you know, doing hormones and dressing different. Like, it's not literally imbibing a uterus functionally into you, you know, like, there's a spectrum of transition, but you don't have to, there's no cutoff on that spectrum from when you can consider yourself to just be a woman, if that makes sense. So, figure out where the fuck I'm walking. So, you know, when I was 14, though, I didn't have perspective into transness at all. So, you know, I tried a little bit of like wearing my mom's clothes, but I did it all in private. I tried to date a guy through the internet a little bit, but he had a nerdy voice that I found to be a real turnoff, and it made me think maybe I don't like guys at all. I watched Evangelion, and my take at the time had been that Shinji was just so lonely and desperate that when Kaoru showed him affection, it made him temporarily bisexual, because that was how I was interpreting my experience being that age. And the funny part about this is that from that point on, I've always hung out mostly with guys. And it's always been guys that I am attracted to, and that, like, retroactively, it's obvious that, like, I treated some of my friends as though they just, like, were my boyfriend, other than the fact that we don't have sex. But, like, I just had so little, I don't know, to me, that's all that defined, like, a relationship, you know? But now I look at it and I'm like, my relationship with Bird is just like some of my relationships with friends, other than the fact that there's sex involved, you know? So, like, to me, it's like, in retrospect, I was always looking at women with a sense of jealousy and with a sense of, like, I should be more like you, but I don't look like you, and society is telling me that we're inherently different, so I feel like I have to keep a distance. And the only women I would ever talk to are ones who are, like, very open, who are very explanatory, who like to answer questions, you know? Autistic women. So I've always gotten along with autistic women really, really well. Because they have the least understanding of what is the difference between a man and a woman. You meet any autistic woman, and they are very unlikely to have the same perspective on what is the difference between a man and a woman that you would get from anyone else in their community. We'll put it that way. Obviously, you know, people of different groups are all different, but autistic women and autistic men tend to have a very outside perspective on what it means to fit into society at all. And so I think through talking to a lot of autistic women on the internet, I started to get more perspective into, again, like, what are the real meaningful differences? Like, what is just social? What is programmed by society? And what is endemic to having a uterus? And the answer is, like, well, you have periods, and you can have a baby. And that's really it. That's like all that's like hard-coded, hardwired into the existence of having a uterus, you know? As a man, you get erections in the morning, you know? When you wake up, you get morning wood. You know, you might have some nocturnal emissions. These are the meaningful these are the meaningful differences when you're getting down to the line. But again, like when people are thinking about gender, they're not thinking about where the line is between the two of them. They're thinking about the extremes. They're thinking, well, you know, but most women are very unlike most men. And that might be true, but most people are also very fixated on being their gender. They're trying to stay in their lane. They're trying to maximize the benefits of being the way they are within the social structure that they inhabit. So like, for someone like me, who I don't relate to any aspect of manhood enough to embody that in the way that I, you know, participate in society, being a man in society is really hard for me. Being a woman in society is a space I understand better, and it's really about the way that, again, that people react to me. The way that I behaved when I identified as a man, women didn't interact with me at all, and men treated me like a fuckboy. The way that I am interacted with now that I behave as a woman is that generally people are really curious about me, and that causes me to open up, and we get onto a level of expectation of understanding one another, or people just don't ask me any questions because they're afraid of the social consequences of misunderstanding a trans person. So, you know, it's helped me a lot in social situations. And, you know, like for instance, me and Bird going out, right? Like, we've done a lot of times where we work together, we camp together. I'm not always even trying to pass. So we are usually regarded as gentlemen. We are usually asked if we want our checks separate or together, a question you do not get as a man and a woman, as a couple together. But, you know, regardless of that, if I'm dressed even remotely feminine, we are obviously a gay couple at least. You know, like nobody's going to look at us and think, oh, those are just two bros hanging out, unless they are really in denial of the existence of gay people, which some people are. Or they just really can't even grasp that that's a thing. But, you know, usually he introduces me as his wife and uses she, her pronouns. And then people either catch on and they react respectfully, or they don't. And I go into a shell and I stop talking because I don't know how to handle the situation. So, you know, to me, it's like I guess when I was male presenting, I just had no opportunities. Like I never created a situation of communication because I just didn't know how to perform in a way that made sense in almost any scenario. Whereas presenting as a woman, I have like a ratio, you know, like there's some situations where it's confusing or weird because people aren't understanding, and I don't really know how to perform based on the way I look in that moment, you know, or I just feel like a sense of tension from the person communicating with me. This is especially interesting because I'm always with Bird, and he is so good at relieving tension between him and other people that there are some times where I can feel tension from somebody that feels none of it towards him. Like they're having a normal conversation with him and avoiding me because they don't know how they should react. Because they know they're not supposed to treat me like a man, but they also don't feel, you know, they don't feel they don't feel chivalrous, I guess, towards me, if that makes sense. Which is fine, because my expectations as a woman are, once again, couched in the idea that there's not a lot of meaningful difference. So I would consider myself a tomboy, you know, like, regardless my feelings on a physical level or presentational level within society about being a woman, I don't see a woman as like a frilly person in a dress who's sensitive about everything. I see a woman who sings like, you know, no you can't, yes I can, anything you could do, I could do better, you know, like pole vaulting at the Olympics. Like that's the type of woman I admire and, you know, strive to be like. So, So this is why I consider myself kind of a double agent in the gender war, because on the one hand I'm trans and I'm pro recognition of trans rights and trans femininity, but I like boys. I like what they stand for. I like being around guys, dudes, men. You know, I like men who get shit done, men who, you know, I don't besmirch the existence of the man in society, and I think there's a lot of trans women that like hate men. There's a lot of trans women who only date other trans women. There's a lot of trans lesbianity, and also just like a lot of trans women who hate their dads, who, you know, just have bad relationships with men. And like, I have none of that. I've always had great relationships with men. I've always struggled to have good relationships with women besides my mom. And my mom has never been a very feminine woman. She's, you know, her friends are mostly women, but they're all people she grew up with from like middle school. She's never been like going out and making lots of girl friends or anything like that. So, you know, I have an easier time dealing with like ghetto hard women than than women who are like trying to be very feminine, you know? And so when I see like really trans femme people who like hold up femininity to like this high degree, I'm looking at that and I'm thinking, yeah, I mean, there's femininity has a lot to offer, but it shouldn't come at the cost of everything masculinity has to offer, even to women, even like, so I don't know. I have a difficult time finding a place in this whole gender war where I feel like I want peace because I love men and women, and that makes me a double agent. Because if you are a woman or a man who is, you know, who is pro gender war, then you don't want me infiltrating you. You know, you don't want me in your pro men movement. You know, comedian Ryan Long, I think he's funny as shit. There's a bunch of great trans jokes, and I'm sure he was mostly being funny about this, but, you know, he has a show called The Boys Cast. It's for the boys, by the boys, for the boys, you know. And when I was first transitioning, just because I was a fan of him, I was listening to the show, even though he's very explicit, like no girls allowed, you know. And so was Mint Salad, because we're both fans of The Dick Show, and we found him through that. And we met him at one of the Dick Show events, and he found out that we listened to the Boys Cast, and he said this to both of us, you know, me, trans woman, Mint Salad, woman, and he said, it's only for boys. What the fuck are you listening to? Like, why are you listening to the Boys Cast? And I was like, fuck, you're right. And then he started, on the very next episode, he was going so in on women, to a degree that I was like, I know he doesn't even necessarily, like, he can't believe everything he's saying, but this is the grift. It's supposed to be the Boys Cast. It is meant to be prohibitively anti-girl to anybody who can't take it. You know, that is the theme, that is the goal. So I was scared off. I stopped listening to the Boys Cast. I was like, damn, he really did go so far in on being team boys that I couldn't support it, because I'm not truly team boys. I'm not team girls either. I'm team peace, which makes me a double agent. All right, Gary always left a super chat that said, Mint equals boy who woke up one day with a hot girl bod. That is absolutely true. No, I knew Gary had posted that. I just wanted to finish my thought before I went back and read it, because I knew I would forget, and Gary's always here. So, you know, I knew he would get his turn. Yeah, Mint is very much in the gender abolition category. She doesn't feel anything towards the idea of being a woman in that way. That's like, I mean, she will do the thing where she like jokes about like, oh, well, I fucked up because I'm a woman, but she's doing that to be one of the boys. You know, like, it's not the same as my uncle's wife, who's like she's trying to use the fact that men and women are different against men. Mint is trying to use it as like a way of making fun of herself when she messes up. But she's coming at it from the perspective of like, isn't it funny that I, who should be, you know, who in my own mind should be as good as the boys, fucked up in a womanly way, and now I'm going to make fun of myself for it, you know? For the same reason that guys make fun, call one another pansies, you know? Like, it's not that they legitimately think that it's bad to be like a woman, it's that they think that you are not living up to your goals. Like, when a man calls another man a pussy, he's not saying, like, women are terrible and you're a woman. Necessarily, he might be. If it's Dick Masterson, he's definitely saying that. But, like, it's more so you're saying you're doing a bad job at being a man, which I assume is what you're trying to do. And that is the difference that makes me feel more at home dressing as a woman. Nobody's gonna call me a pussy and think it's gonna mean something to me. You know, you call me a pussy and I'm gonna be like, yeah, that's the goal, you know? Like, that's what we're doing here. It wouldn't be like, how dare you call me a pussy? I'm not a pussy. That's not, you know, like, and boys get like that. My dad get like that. Bird gets like that. You know, if a guy's not trying to be a pussy, you can't just call him a pussy. But, you know, I'm not trying to not be a pussy. So, and that's the kind of thing, like, for me growing up, being treated as a boy, as a kid, just led to lots of discomfort for me, particularly in my interaction with, like, older men. Because older men are always trying to, you know, besides my dad, he didn't have this problem, but, like, older guys are always trying to bully the girl out of you. Like, they're always, especially if they're insecure themselves, they feel like they need to, or just even older boys, you know, like, they feel like they need to toughen you up and make you more of a man. And it's like, I am not interested in being more of a man. This works on some guys who do want to be more of a man, but this will not work on me, who is not interested in being more of a man, you know? So that's the kind of social shit where it's just like, you know, I wouldn't feel I had a place in society as a man. I feel I have a place in society as a trans woman, even if I don't get recognized as a woman all the time, because my presentation is far enough from standard masculinity that I'm not going to be treated like a man by most people. They might call me they might use male pronouns, but they're not going to treat me like, at the very least, not like, you know, one of the boys, which is very much what I don't like, you know. Even though I hang out with the boys, I like hanging out around the boys, but I don't want to be treated like one of the boys, you know. In most social situations, I'm Bird's girlfriend. I'm not, you know, the guy at the party. I'm like the one who's hanging out with the guy at the party, you know? Please don't call yourself D-trans. Why would I? If anything, have been expressing the very opposite, I think. 9 months of estrogen so far. There's no sign of stopping that. So I don't know where you're getting that impression. I need to know if my language is confusing, because I don't want people to get the wrong idea here. My point is that I think gender presentation being regarded as meaningful is kind of stupid, but it is meaningful, and so you have to regard it that way. You just have to be stupid. Like, to live in this world, you have to be stupid. You cannot operate on logic, because the society doesn't operate on logic. It operates on emotion. So, like, if you think transitioning is a stupid decision that'll make you happier, get dumb. Or as the Black Eyed Peas would say, get it started. June with $4.99. How would you separate trans people pleasing / cope? Example around men wanting to be a man, wanting to be accepted into female spaces, then being femme. Pleasing trans people from, trans from people pleasing / cope. How do you separate being trans from people pleasing / cope? Oh, that's difficult because I don't really understand how to people please at all. So that's not something I can relate to. I'm like, I know the way I come off through like live streams, because I'm the only one talking, I know I seem like arrogant and egotistical, but I also seem loudmouthed and like I never shut up. In real life, you get all the arrogance and egotism with none of the dialogue. It's just me kind of standing there staring, waiting for something to react to. And you know, I think people probably think I'm more of a hard ass than I am towards them. It's usually me beating myself up. Like, I'm just quiet because I don't know what to say, and then I'm upset with myself that I don't know what to say, you know? And other people are looking at me like, you know, people who are really good at guiding conversation or really good at recognizing discomfort, I have a great time talking with. People who, you know, who look at somebody who seems uncomfortable and then think, oh, I am making this person uncomfortable. I'm then going to think, uh-oh, I made that person think they're making me uncomfortable, you know? So like, I just get really hung up and it becomes like an awkward spiral. So I would say, for me, transition has not done any it has had no people pleasing effect. It has not made anybody happy. It's made a lot of people angry. It's, I guess it's made some people happy online in the sense that like they've learned from me or learned to accept themselves, you know, people who are in my audience who get something out of my message. But like, I would say it's made it easier for me to put myself out there because I feel more comfortable, but it also means that I am in space. I exist in space, and therefore some people will be made uncomfortable. When I think that would have been true when I was presenting male as well. I mean, anybody who knows what Digibro looked like, particularly when I had the beard at massive length, like, I was not the kind of person who walks into a room unnoticed. You know, like, I looked like a psychotic murderer to the average person. So like, I just didn't go anywhere. I didn't put myself in situations to make people uncomfortable. Now, I feel comfortable enough about myself that I could like defend my presence, but I don't want to have to. So if I feel like my presence is putting people on guard, I want to avoid them. You know, I want to be away from them and towards people who don't feel like the fact that I'm there is making them uncomfortable, because I feed off of that discomfort very easily. As for cope, around men wanting to be a man, wanting to be accepted into female spaces, then being femme, like trying to wrap my head around exactly what you mean by that. Like, I mean, I definitely think I am much more utilitarian in my approach to individual situations than I am emotional. Like, the emotions tend to come later, or I process them through thought, or I just deal with them in the moment. So like, I've been in plenty of situations where, you know, someone doesn't recognize me as a woman and I'm just not going to correct them. You know, I'm not going to change my behavior, but I'm not going to like stop the moment to make sure that they start treating me different. I just kind of log this as like, this is a person I'm probably not going to interact with again, you know, or like that, you know, this was an uncomfortable interaction. I'm going to figure out how to navigate around it next time or something. But like, I don't necessarily avoid ever being in uncomfortable situations. You know, I don't know if this is a good answer to this question. I don't know if I'm really answering you, but I guess it's hard for me to understand the angle of being a people pleaser because I have a hard time doing it. You know, like, these streams are making people really happy. I'm doing them because they make me money. If I wasn't making more money doing these live streams and other things, there's just no chance I'd be doing them. You know, I enjoy the social interaction I get through the internet, but I don't enjoy it as much as social interaction in real life. And my social interaction in real life is pretty limited by, you know, I just don't really have the money to move around and do shit and meet up with people and go to the types of environments I feel comfortable, which are like conventions and concerts, you know? all of which just keep getting more expensive. So I'm pretty much getting priced out of my safe spaces, besides the woods. And this is something I can do in the woods, so it feels nice, you know. If these live streams weren't making money, I would just be cooped up in my room, you know, making raps and anime videos as I have been doing without the live streaming. But those are not making as much money as the live streaming is making. So this is taking more of a priority right now. It's as simple as that. Life not complicated. Make big money however you can. You know, just gotta live a little bit more. Live in a mindset of desperation. I think that's well, no, maybe desperation is the wrong word. Hunger at the very least, you know, live in a mindset of hunger. Because as soon as you get comfortable, you will overeat. Hopefully that, I don't know if that metaphor translates. What is this channel about? This channel is about archiving my content and shit posting and live streaming. It's about me, mostly. Basically just molding yourself into the situation and wanting to be accepted into one group or another, and then doing what's convenient to allow that. I think so. I haven't had a lot of situations of like wanting to be accepted. It's more like wanting not to be outright rejected, I guess. But this is tough for me because I'm not a social person. Like, I definitely, like, the kinds of interactions that I have the most are like me and Bird go to a brewery. We start talking to the person behind the counter. And then based on how quickly they assume my gender or whether or not he manages to bring it up in the conversation before they do, is how I will end up probably being addressed throughout that conversation. My level of participation will usually depend entirely on what type of person that person is and how much they seem to understand what is going on with the two of us in a way I can, you know, communicate with. So I'm not usually thinking about acceptance within a group. I'm just thinking about, how is this person reacting to me? Is this person going to cause me problems if they reject the notion of my transness? Like, if there has only been one time where we were talking to a bartender, a woman, who, this was the other encounter I had of like a person who puts a lot of stock in the difference of gender causing problems for me, where, you know, she had been referring to me with male pronouns, and then Bird like started saying she, and she literally said like, why do you keep saying she? And Bird said like, this is my wife. And the woman literally laughed and then said something to the effect of like, to me, I can't believe you're letting him call you that. And I was so confused by that part, because that was, I wanted to say, I'm the one asking, you know, but like, I couldn't even muster words, because I just wanted to cry, you know, at the time. I couldn't believe that this woman, who was substantially older than me, I mean, granted, she was like a drunk, obese, white bitch in Illinois, in a small town at a tiny bar, but who was clearly trying to start shit with somebody. I think she was already being rude to other people, so it wasn't just a me thing. But she literally laughed in my face about him calling me his wife. It's by far the most offensive reaction I've ever gotten to being trans. But like, there are times where, you know, we'll use, like, he'll use female pronouns to refer to me multiple times, And even if I can tell that person definitely had to have caught on, they keep using male pronouns, you know, insistently. It's happened, but again, usually it doesn't really even come up. Usually it's not really pertinent enough to the conversation for me to even care. I don't want to have to explain transgenderism to every fucking person I encounter, you know? Anyway, Anime Entranced with Canadian $5. Thank you. Kind of off topic, do you have any underappreciated trans-ish anime recommendations besides the usual Ranma, Horomusko, and Stop Hibari-kun? I had a video on top 5 trans anime, but I think you just named like half of them. I'm trying to remember what else I talked about in that video. I know Hunter x Hunter was in there, but that's like got one trans character way deep late. Oh, I might have talked about the one I compared to Astroscore. Chivalry of a Failed Knight has a good trans character in it, at least compared to most anime, who is like definitively trans. There's lots of slant portrayals. I still haven't read Genshiken Nidaime, Genshiken's second season of the manga. The original manga is really good, and the second season has a trans character. I've seen people be like, debate the presentation's quality, but I have not actually seen it myself to know. There's that one manga, I can't remember the name of it, but I made a whole video called like the kindest LGBT manga. It's very much about trans, like middle or high schoolers, I don't remember, and it's fucking adorable. It's like a standard slice of life thing, but with trans themes, so it's really good. Anybody else know anything? Blue Period? I still haven't seen Blue Period. I did hear about that having trans stuff. Married already? No, we have not actually gotten married. I don't know if we ever will, because there's not really a good reason to. It's just kind of expensive. You know, I haven't really seen a compelling argument for going through with it other than to be legally attached, I guess. But you know, I know several people who are in long-term committed relationships that have never been married. So I don't think it's something that's necessary to keep your relationship together. But saying that you're married keeps the questions short, usually. Like, if it's somebody you know, then they're like, oh my God, when did you get married? But if it's somebody you don't know, they'll just be like, cool, you're your wife, whatever, you know. Don't have to explain my long-term girlfriend or whatever. My fiance of 3 years, but I've known her for 4 years, like, you know, that kind of shit. The tax break is worth it. I mean, I would maybe investigate it for that, but it costs money just to do. And like, most of the fun of getting married is throwing a ceremony, which is, you know, if you want to do anything, you get to pay all kinds of shit. Our family lives all over the country, and we have a lot of it. So it would be expensive, not just for us, but for anybody who wanted to go to it. So it's just the kind of thing where we're like, I don't know, let's not and say we did. It's easier. Probably get rings, like proper rings eventually, just to, you know, have a memento of the thought of marriage. Shimanami Tasogare has a few trans characters and they're pretty good. I've never heard of that. Your SO and you have been together for 8 years not getting married? Yeah, I don't... Again, there's lots of arguments against it. You know, my being a big fan of Dick Masterson, who is very anti-marriage, very anti-getting the government involved in your relationship. You know, he's been in a successful relationship for 9 or so years. So I see they're one of my favorite couples, you know, so it's hard for me to take that as a negative influence. June with $2, thank you. Thoughts or advice on becoming more creative? Tough, I know. I actually don't know if that's as tough as you think. Here's my advice. Consider who, what, where, when, why, and how. I don't know if I added one there. But like, the essential questions of journalism, they also apply to storytelling. But like just try to figure out the story of anything, right? Okay, so here's a tree, right? So we know certain stories about this tree based on what we know about trees. Like, we know this tree is like a certain age. It's probably like 100 at least, because it's pretty thick. I'd have to count the rings to know for sure. But you got the moss over here. Moss points north. It's next to this river. Like, if you just look at something and consider the story, like, what is this? Why is it here? How did it get this way? Like, what is about it? It gives you more of an understanding of how things work in general, and then you can recreate that. So for me as a writer, I've always struggled with wanting to be original, which is hard because everything's been done before, including mentioning how everything's been done before. It's actually been done to death. And so, like, a lot of my creative writing is like about how done to death everything is. Like, just the sheer level. And again, I'm not even the only person who writes this way. There are other examples, but like, that is the style. The category I fall into is like basically parodying the fact that it is so hard to be original, and like finding originality only in like taking the parody to the farthest extreme you can. Where like my book, I wrote this light novel in like a day, it sucks and I hate it. The first story in it is like one paragraph, and I think it starts with like a guy sitting at his computer, and then he gets hit by a meteorite and dies. Now we have a new main character. He also got hit by a truck. So this guy is now the main character, and like just goes like 12 times with more ridiculous things happening to people. So yeah, I find a lot of creativity in breaking down other stories, examining what people are trying to do with them, and then like making fun of it, or putting a twist on it that makes it, makes fun of the parts of it that they're taking seriously. Or like, I think a lot of art comes from a place of like self-misidentification, where like people are trying to represent something about themselves and in the process actually reveal something else. And I think a lot of my art makes fun of that. Like Kusomega, my book, part of the reason I've had such trouble finishing it is that there are certain themes in the book that were already planned before I really understood why I was putting them into the book. And then I started understanding it. And that runs a certain risk where when I understand it, now I want to represent the idea appropriately. Whereas before I understood what I was doing, I was just kind of writing, out of just trying to make something click, and then like looking back on it, understanding why it was good. I write a lot of stuff that never gets released, like way more than I release, especially when it comes to creative writing. So there's plenty of times that I think something's gonna work, I start getting into it, it doesn't work, I can it, But I think you can be creative either from the direction of just understanding something where you're like, I've got a grip on this and I'm gonna try to learn more through being creative, or overstanding something where you have such a strong grip on it that you can be absolute and authoritative in your creation. So it's like, is this creation explorative, or is it authoritative? Kendrick Lamar would be a good example of somebody whose music tends to be authoritative. Like, he's done a bunch of exploring, but he only releases the stuff that is like final, that is definitive on his perspective up to that moment, as definitive as it could be, Whereas I tend to make a lot of music that is the exploratory stage, and then I release it, I see the reaction, I listen to it back, and then I start to understand it. All right, big super chat from Cosmic Blue for 20 bucks. Thank you so much. Always seen myself as cis male, was bullied for years for not conforming to the perfect masculine standard. Seems even from the privileged position as a man, no one truly escapes the gender war except those in power. Yes, highly agree. And you just reminded me, there's a video I've wanted to make for a long time called Misgendering Affects Everyone. Because what's the fastest way to get the average man to punch you in the face? Call him a pussy. Like, literally calling a guy's masculinity into question is like the most offensive thing to a substantial percentage of men. Same goes for women. You call a woman manly and she's going to have an opinion about it, you know? And this is becoming less true as like the existence of trans people and conversations about gender non-binaryism. What the fuck am I listening to? Is this like a frog fuckathon happening in the lake? Are those ducks or frogs? Can't tell. Sounds like frogs spawning, just suddenly started. I guess because of the rain picking up. Anyway, but yeah, like, it really does affect everybody. I would actually say that I want to lay claim that I might be the person who has been the most misgendered in my whole life, because I spent the first 14 years identifying as a boy and being called a girl, and I've spent the last 6 years identifying as a woman and being called a man. So, you know, not all the time or by everybody, just it happens a lot. So I think I have more experience with misgendering than most people. And it never has no effect on me, but I don't let it have much of an effect on me, because if I did, I just couldn't participate in society at the level that I do. You know, my fear of that kept me in my room for 10 years, pretty much. So, like, you know, if I can't accept myself in rejection of what anybody else thinks, I simply cannot participate in, you know, in society on that level. And it's a shame. I don't want to like be a victim blamer or tell people like, you just got to be strong. You just got to suck it up. No, you got to fight. You got to fucking throw punches back. You don't got to suck shit up. You got to hit him in the fucking face for saying that shit to you, you know? And like, again, I don't get emotional like that about being misgendered. I get emotional like that about people who understand what they're doing and are doing it on purpose, which is not most of the time. Most people legitimately have no idea what transgenderism is. They don't get the perspective. They have a hard time putting themselves in someone else's shoes, and it might make them discomfort. You know, it might bring up just even thinking about the idea of gender as a question is an uncomfortable subject matter for some people. My mere existence makes some people uncomfortable. And I don't consider that necessarily their fault, but I'm not going to let the consequences of that fall on me. You know, I'm willing to accept that other people have the feelings they have, but I'm not willing to let them decide what I'm allowed to do based on those feelings, you know? So, yeah, when it comes to, like, I don't think it matters whether you're cis or trans or whatever. It's like, you just have to stand up for the way you want to be treated. And that's hard for a lot of people, because a lot of people's way they want to be treated is that they don't want to have to stand up. They're like, why should I, who is doing nothing wrong, have to, you know, be constantly forced to fight for myself against people who are wrong? And the answer is, that's the way the world is. It's self-defense, first and foremost. The weak get eaten. You just gotta figure out how to be strong within. We're lucky, in a sense, that we're not in a society where strength is, like, where physical strength matters more than mental strength, for the most part. Like, there are certain situations, but they're usually avoidable in modern society where where might literally makes right. But, you know, we live in a world where usually the person with the most emotional fortitude, who is the most willing to go on non-violently, as long as that person does not get killed and therefore martyred to whatever cause they stand for, you know, that's the path towards convincing people, towards victory in a cultural fight sense. Walking in the rain in the woods, getting all wet in the woods. Oh boy. I've been worrying about gender for a solid fucking 70 minutes now. Starting to want to drink. I think I might start heading back in the direction of the house. I don't know if I want to be live when I actually go through my neighborhood though. Maybe I'll start a second stream, but we've got so many people here. Hello everybody. Welcome to my gender war stream. Where I wait for more super chats to give me rant requests as I get soaked in the trees. And I wear this cool shirt of this stabbed girl. She kind of looks like Ranma a little bit. I just like, I like that it's basically Guro, but it's cute enough that I don't think it would disturb most people to see. I probably will put my phone in my pocket, but I'll have to mute it and it'll just be a black screen for a while. I did this the other day at the cidery. When we were ordering cider, I just pocketed the phone for a bit and then pulled it back out. So I might literally do that when I get closer to my house. And then pull you all back out once I'm inside, out of the rain with a nice drink, because I do have an office room freed up I can use to record in today. So, anyway, there's a new super chat from Shadow Priest for $2. Rant about your financial plan the next 20 years. Who the fuck has a 20-year financial plan? Holy shit. Nerd. God damn, 20 years. I can't imagine having a 20-month financial plan. What the hell are you talking about? What do you have, like a 401k? What do you work for, like a suit and tie company? A big old corpo over there, Shadow Priest? You wildin' out 20 years. I will be very happy to live another 20 years. I'll just be proud I made it. I've never had a financial plan in my entire life. It's not the way we do things out here. Why would you want to retire? What, I mean, I guess if you literally can't work, then you get with like retirement through disability or whatever. I don't know, I wouldn't be interested in retiring. I think, I don't put any stock in anything that's like betting on the future. I've seen the market crash too many times. I've seen too many people lose their 401k. I've seen, you know, I've seen the government change the rules. I've seen too much inflation. I've seen too much early death. I've seen too much medical failure. I just can't imagine being concerned about 20 years worth of financial planning and expecting that to go the way that it's supposed to go when you set the plan in motion. That just seems like a little crazy to me. I'm not saying I don't think anybody has ever successfully set themselves up. I actually know some people who have. You know, and I know some people who are retired with money, who have nice things, who have a nice life. But they also took a very traditional route to life that I would never want to live. You know, everything else about how they got to that place, I would have no interest in experiencing. So, you know, I'm not really, I don't understand the mentality of like living a mediocre or uninteresting life for like 60 years when you're actually like healthy and you can move around, and then like trying to enjoy the part where you're basically bedridden, you know? This is from the perspective of like my granddad is 90 years old. He is still alive. He is very much retired. He is not doing anything. He is sitting in a chair watching television. He cannot walk. So, you know, retirement doesn't look that fun. June with $2. Opinion on purpose of non-sequential illustration. Purpose of non-sequential illustration, like illustration that is not part of a manga, you mean? This is an like you're asking me what is the purpose of any illustration that is not in sequence? What is the purpose of any art? I am at a bit of a loss. I don't know if this is something that's ever been called into question before, in my experience. I don't know if you're like literally asking me as somebody who is a fan of images that aren't in sequence because you're not one. I love images in general. You know, images in sequence are cool because they can tell usually a more complicated story, or at least a longer story, a more involved story. But images can usually tell a really deep story instantaneously, and plenty of times there's no need for that story to go any further. It's already encapsulated in the image. There doesn't need to be more. I see, most of the images I see are on Twitter. Like I don't go to a lot of image boards or any stuff like that anymore because I get enough of it from Twitter. I follow a lot of artists. So if you follow my Twitter, I retweet shit all the time. And I basically retweet anything that I vibe with on an aesthetic level, that like I want to represent my values. You know, like I basically retweet art that I want to see more of. If there's something like stylistically or meaningfully that makes me think like, I get this or I love this and therefore I want to see more of it. Like that's what usually inspires me to retweet a piece of art. All right, another super chat for 1069. Hey, nice. From Get Ye to a Single Room Log Cabin and Pray. Highly agree with your username. I think I'm probably cis, but I'm not sure. Thoughts, advice. There's no need to question it. There's no need to bother yourself with it if it's not something that's naturally occurring to you. As like, I guess I'd have to ask, what are you not sure about? You know, Bird identifies as gender non-binary, and this mostly affects Bird's self-perception more so than it has affected the way that anyone treats them. You know, I usually just say he, him most of the time. Bird does not care what pronouns are used. There's no preference. There's no, you know, but like, I would say that Bird does have his own idea of like what is a masculine and what is a feminine presentation, and that he is more often in his version of a masculine presentation. So like, that's why I don't think he identifies as transgender, in spite of identifying as, you know, as gender fluid. Is like there's like a difference in behavior in, and it's like, oh, when I'm like this I feel like this, and when I'm like this I feel like this, but I don't but they're like very divided, I guess, for him. Whereas for me, I kind of tried to, like when I first was understanding transgenderism, like I related to Ranma, and I was always very insistent, like I would want the ability to switch between the two, but that's mostly out of insecurity of leaving behind the way I already am. You know, like the idea that, and remind you, for a long time, my impression of transgenderism meant that you were getting a surgery, you were changing your genitals if you're transgender. So from my perspective, it was like, if I were to consider myself as a woman, I would have to alter my body fundamentally. And that's where a lot of the fear in like identifying that way came from. So gender fluidity offered me an opportunity to say like, well, you know, I don't have to hate every aspect of the experience of having a male body, even if I feel emotionally like a woman, you know. But like over time, it just came to be that I couldn't justify how there was a difference, you know, like how I did not feel male sometimes or whatever. I felt the same way all the time, you know. It's just that my perspective on what it would mean to feel like if you feel like a woman and you want to call yourself a woman, you would have to have surgery. When that changed, I transitioned just because I realized, oh, if that's not like, you know, what's the word I want? If that's not a necessary part of this thing, then, you know, then it is accurate to describe me. And I don't think that's true for everybody, you know. I think that some people maybe don't feel totally comfortable in being in a masculine role socially, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they would be comfortable in a feminine role socially, or that their body would feel better if they altered it in any way, or if they altered their presentation in any way, you know. Bird likes wearing a dress and feeling pretty and being told he looks good in a dress, but that's not necessarily a inherently feminine experience, you know. Like, it doesn't make you a woman to want that or to enjoy that experience, and neither does it make you necessarily a woman to like take estrogen and grow boobs. It's really just like a self-identity thing more than anything. So I don't know. My answer is really, don't take it as seriously as anybody who takes it seriously does. Don't curse yourself with gender as a major concern in your life if you don't have to. You know, I think the future generations will have the opportunity, I hope, to recognize all of this as like a social curse. That, like, you know, if I had never, I don't know, I feel like if transgenderism had been an open knowledge concept when I was a teenager, I almost certainly would have taken hormones as a teenager. Like, the level of rejection I felt towards my body when I went through puberty was like totalizing, and it lasted years, and it really fucked up my life, you know. Like, my ability to speak and be open now and be myself and be emotional is dependent on 10 years of overcoming the trauma of puberty, essentially. So, you know, I'm very pro trans acceptance and trans rights, and pro transition itself. And, you know, I think if you're somebody who is tortured by those feelings and thoughts, they need to be addressed. But if you're not tortured by those feelings and thoughts, if you maybe think like, you know, it's more of like an interesting thought experiment or something, just think about it less. Worry about it less. Don't be concerned about it. Let me harbor all of the concern instead. But I don't know, you know, you just got to be yourself. Be true to yourself and do what feels right. And don't let yourself be surrounded with people who are going to tell you that it's wrong for you to feel the way you feel. You know, if people tell you men aren't allowed to feel that way, your conclusion shouldn't be, oh, that necessarily makes me a woman. If you feel like a woman, that's a different question. But if other people are telling you that the way you behave is not masculine, just accept that they are wrong. They don't know what they're talking about. They are insecure about whatever part of them they see in your behavior, and it's causing them to lash out at it. All right, let's see what's happening in the chat. George Washington forehead, KSI's brother. I take that as a compliment, I think. KSI is he known for having a big forehead? That's the boxing YouTuber, right? For a second, in my head, When I see KSI, I tend to think of KRS-One because he's a dope rapper. And then I remember, no, you didn't say KRS-One, you said KSI, who's just like a boxing YouTuber, I think. Still walking, must be pretty broke. Yeah, I am very broke. But wait, why would me being walking contribute to me being broke? I like walking. I would be walking if I had a shitload of money. Why would that? I would just be. I mean, well, I'm trying to think. Where would I be walking if I could be walking anywhere? Maybe Japan? Like, maybe I'd just be doing this from Japan because more people would probably care. Like, I'd probably get more viewers streaming to Americans from Japan. But no, because the time zones would be all fucked. June with $2. Thank you very much. Opinion on the worst part / aspect of LGBT culture. It's... I have to find the safest way to say this. God. I'm trying to say this in a way, I like the most difficult thing I think about talking to people who have been victimized is to convince them not to see themselves as victims. Like, it's not a matter of, it's just a matter of self-preservation and survival. If you treat yourself as a victim and you expect society to give you something as reparation, it's probably not going to happen unless you can find a legal way. I think I only kind of understood this as I got older because my parents are very non-litigious people. I've never been involved in any kind of lawsuits or really been up close to them, which is why I've never filed a lawsuit on Maddox for defamation for calling me a pedophile all the time. I just don't want to have to go through the legal trouble because I don't understand that kind of shit, even though people keep encouraging me to do that. But like, I have known people who grew up in a litigious culture where like the way that their mom got through life was by figuring out what she could sue people for and making money off of it. And so there's some people who kind of live their life with the like predisposition towards the idea that like someone's gonna fuck with them and they're gonna get to sue that person, you know? And I feel like that's how a lot of the LGBT community sort of metaphorically operates, is like they're walking around expecting to get fucked with and then being really indignant about getting fucked with. And I think the more you walk around with the expectation of getting fucked with, the likelier it is to happen, because you're walking around with a chip on your shoulder and people pick up on that and people don't like it. And especially other people who are angry. I just think there's a lot of people who are walking around angry on both sides who are just looking to start shit with one another. And the more peaceable you are, the better the situation gets for everybody. And I know a lot of people don't want to hear that because peace is more difficult for a lot of people. Like, it's easier for me because I'm good at speaking. You know, like I've trained this skill my whole life. But that came from a place of wanting to fit in. And I didn't for a long time. And I'm trying to kick the ladder down instead of pulling it up, you know, behind me and like help other people to develop those communication skills, because I really do think that as long as you go on waiting for society to apologize, you're never getting that apology. Not until you do something for society. Like, when the day comes that you have made the lives better of people who fucked with you, that's when they'll apologize to you. You know, like when somebody says, man, I really didn't respect you when I met you, but because you did this, you know, I made a whole lot of money and my family has been able to eat, and therefore I respect you. And like, it's going to take more trans people willing to, you know, just take the pain of existing and decide to be good people and just decide to be forgiving and, you know, Christ-like and turn the other cheek. And it's not something anybody wants to have to do, but it's just going to make your situation better and make everybody else in your position situation better. And there's not really another choice. Duvet Boa with $5, great name. And you don't seem to understand. A shame you seem an honest man. Do you have any thoughts on the new generation of anime YouTubers? You don't have to name names. Anime YouTube is the healthiest it's ever been from my perspective. I actually have a video script and recorded that I have been forgetting to edit for like 2 months now, just about all of the anime YouTubers I've discovered recently. I know the first on my list was Pyramid Inu, has a bunch of great mecha videos, and one about Identity and Turn A Gundam. Negative Legend, who is a beautiful person who talks about like trash baby anime from the late 2000s and early 2010s. Oh man, there's a bunch of people who I want to recommend. If I hate that I don't think my liked list is public on YouTube. I'm not sure. It might be, because they took away like the list of channels you're subscribed to. It used to be you could go to a channel and look at everything they're subbed to, and I think they took that page off. But I will get this video out recommending anime YouTubers. But yeah, as far as I'm concerned, I created the world I wanted to live in, and now I live in it when it comes to anime YouTube. And it's been very exciting, because I would say it's like this year more than, like, we are right now in the peak of me being like excited about anime YouTube. I'm trying to think of some more names. Keto Senpai is really funny. Fuck, who's that guy? There's one dude who always does these like randomized anime watchings, which are very similar to my old Spin the Crunchy Roulette videos. He's pretty funny. There's just been a lot of it, and it's interesting because there's people who are coming onto the scene now who are just immediately better than anything that existed like 10 years ago. And I really do think it's just the culture of like what kinds of people are making, like, I think for you to emerge into what is a crowded market, you have to really have something unique going for you, or just be very driven, like very passionate about doing it. And either of those two things will usually attract me to content. Moon Anime put out a video yesterday where they animated a whole chapter of Biomega, the Tsutomu Nihei manga, as a motion comic. It's fucking awesome. Like, the editing effects are really cool. It perfectly translates what is cool about Tsutomu Nihei's manga. So, highly recommend that. But yeah, like, I think when I got onto the anime scene, there just wasn't a lot of deep, like, it was basically all the content on YouTube was introducing anime to YouTube, you know? Like, even myself, when I first started doing anime content, I had a lot of videos like, what is seasonal anime? You know, like, where can I watch shows? What are good shows? And then for a long time, everybody felt like they had to write the definitive review on whatever show they were talking about because nothing else existed. So it's like, I'm going to be the first person who's ever talked about Infinite Revius on YouTube. I need to make sure I write the most definitive review possible. But also it has to be under 20 minutes long because that was the meta back then, you know, like, and also most people didn't know how to edit or didn't have the PC's strength to do the fancy shit that you can do now. Like, it's gotten easier. More people understand how to do it. People are better at it because they've had influence from the first generation of analysts and people who are, you know, who are trying to do something more unique. And then I think because people like me made an effort to talk about like every anime, it stopped being that every video had to be like the definitive video. It's like, well, okay, there's a video about every show now, so you can take a more unique angle on it. You know, like not every video has to be. And now that we know, like back then there was maybe 10, 12 YouTube reviewers or analysis channels, so it's like, well, you're not guaranteed going to get a review of every show because somebody has to watch it, you know. But now that there's so many channels, it's almost guaranteed somebody's talking about your show, you know. Probably if it's a popular show, everyone's talking about your show. So now we're in an era where something like Free-Ren can come along and there's not a me trying to make the definitive Free-Ren review the week the show comes out. There's like 500 different analysis videos all coming at it from totally different angles, you know. That's the dream. That's what I wanted it to be like. So as far as I'm concerned, my dream has come true when it comes to anime analysis videos. You know, there's way more talent and charisma circulating in the sphere than ever before. So it's dope. ASE Presents with $5. What is going on, Clippa? Thank you for not killing yourself during old road mapless YouTube eras. Yeah. God. I mean, even now, like, you know, I'm doing this live streaming thing, which is just basically brand new meta. Like, even this doesn't feel roadmapped yet. This feels like it's successful because it's new and exciting. And we're all going to have to learn how to capitalize on it the best, because it's going to keep getting more competitive, right? Like, people are going to start figuring out how to coagulate all the attention in a few places. They're going to start figuring out what causes people to make super chats more often. So, like, you know, this field is so nascent right now. And it's weird because obviously live streaming is not new, and even vertical live streaming is not new, but vertical live streaming on YouTube is new. And it is like a different audience than has existed for live streaming before. So, you know, I'm always happy to be a trailblazer, but it is always, it's the tough part is not getting credit or recognition for it afterwards, where, like, you know, there are so many people who I watch their videos and I'm like, well, this couldn't have existed if I hadn't existed first, but I don't even know if this person's aware of me. You know, like, I don't know if they're taking direct influence from me or if they just see me as one of many voices that are part of, like, the same generation. But it's interesting from my perspective because I know that there was nothing like what I was doing before I started doing it, you know? So I mean, there was for not anime. I would say that, like, my work wasn't completely dissimilar from stuff that was being done about film or video games, which was my biggest influences. But there is now, you know, anime YouTubers who are influenced by anime YouTubers who only existed because of me, who don't know who I am. And that's a trippy feeling because it feels like there should be history. Like, there should be a sense of remembrance. And, like, the best we've got is, like, Gigak's history of AniTube video where I get mentioned in, like, a quick aside, you know, because I don't know, I guess I'm too controversial to be acknowledged at length or something. I have no idea. But, you know, I pretty much got sidelined in the history of AniTube. So I pretty much have to tell my own history of AniTube. Luckily, that is one of the scripts I wrote to release this year. So, look forward to that. What trail am I on, gang? I'm basically at the park. And you can see over there, I'm just at the park. There's, like, woods around the park. The rain is really picking up. If I was not under tree cover, I would be very soaked. I'm actually now, I was planning to head back to the house and get a drink. But now I'm thinking I'm heading to a gazebo and waiting out the heavy rain, because even here in the trees it's starting to get bad. Although the heavy rain might not let up, so I might end up stuck here in the park in the rain, because bird's working double today, so ain't no rescue coming. Let's get under this gazebo. Hanging out in the party remnants. Whose party? I have no idea. It was some family the other day, and they left all their shit. Debating with myself if I'm gonna clean it up for them. Glasses raised to bird indeed. Alright, let's see what's happening in Chatland. I haven't really been reading for a couple minutes. Last responded to that Duvet super chat. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. The rain has scared everybody else off, so I can sing as loud as I want. I'm voting. Oh wait, no, I read an ASC super chat even after that other one I mentioned. The Duvet Boa one. Everybody loves Lane, indeed. And you don't seem the lying kind. A shame that I can read your mind and all the things that I read there. I think she says, can't dull this love that we both can't dull this love that we both share. You know I don't mean to hurt you, but you know that it means so much, and you don't even feel a thing. I am falling, I am fading, I am drowning. Help me to breathe. I am hurting, I have lost it all. I am losing. Help me to breathe. Alright, super chat from Shadow Priest 2 for the B. Roth IRA retirement fund. I don't even know what you're referencing. No idea. Silent smile that we both share. The silent smile that we both share. Alright. Karaoke request stream, let's go. Now that it's raining, I can sing with impunity. It takes a lot of dedication to make video essay style content. While there is a lot of grifter, there are much easier choices for grifting. That is true. That is very true. And there are ways to do griftier versions of what I do, and I'm not even averse to them, I'm just bad at them. I am bad at doing anything that's not just following my inspiration. And what's great about doing these live streams is that I really do sit around having thoughts all day that mostly amount to nothing. Like, most of the time, if I'm sitting there just thinking about stuff, like, maybe, you know, flecks of that perspective will turn up in the way that I talk about other stuff. But if I don't directly talk about most of those subjects, I'm not really profiting off of having all those ideas, you know? And self-satisfaction is fine and all, but if I could be making a profit off of having an infinite number of ideas, I would prefer to be. And, yeah, anything that slows it down even a little bit, like taking the time to write, most people aren't going to read the article, so then you got to read it, and then if it's just you reading an article, that's kind of awkward presentationally, so you got to do something visually, and it's just like, by that point, you've turned what could be a 15-minute rant in the middle of a 4-hour live stream into a fucking two-week commitment, you know, of editing and voicing and all this shit. And, like, how different is the meaning? Like, it might reach a wider audience, but will it affect them more deeply? I don't know. I've always been, there's a this the band The Sound of Animals Fighting in 2008. They released an album called The Ocean and the Sun, and on the first track, technically the second track, the first like real song after the intro, I'm trying to remember the fucking name of it. It's not I the Swan. It's before. It might just be called The Ocean and the Sun. Actually, the song itself. There's a speech that this woman gives where she's basically talking about how we tend to think of our success in terms of numbers, but it's not really possible to reach 10,000 people as strongly as you could reach, for instance, 10 people. Like, what you can do working with people more directly, more intimately, you will impact those people more strongly. And I know that to be true. And it's hard for me to convince myself to chase the numbers game when I know I'm having a softer impact. Like, and I also don't think that it leads to necessarily a better lifestyle or better payout, right? Like, because if you're trying to reach the most people possible, that means that you have to change the way you live your life based around how sponsors want you to be. You know, like, you basically become guided by the money. And I have to be somewhat guided by the money, or else I have no money. But if I can make the money reaching a smaller number of people more powerfully, I would rather do that, because I know that those people are going to care about me more in the long run, that they're more likely to return, they're more likely to consider my opinions as meaningful, they're more likely to change their behavior based on what I say, because they take my opinions seriously, as compared to if the impression of me was that I would just do anything for money. You know, that I wasn't trying to help you, I was trying to sell you something, then I don't think people would trust me in the long term the same way that they do. And now, granted, I've reached trust in plenty of other ways as a content creator, but I can't really even make excuses for it. I've just made a lot of mistakes. But I think I could sooner exhibit the traits of having learned from that experience than I could convince people to, like, trust me if I changed gears and became like a sellout. It would just be like, oh, I already didn't trust you, now I know you really suck. Audio editing is a bitch, really? Yeah, especially if you're trying to make it, like, really sound good. I'm so impressed with what iPhone mics can do, and that people... I've always been kind of an audio snob when it comes to internet content, but I've relaxed a lot over the years because of how much audio you end up hearing on the internet. Like, I used to care a lot more about making sure that all my videos sounded good, and part of that is because, like, the very first videos I did, they all sounded really bad, and I considered that to be a big part of why I wasn't taking off. So I got a nice microphone, and I became like a real audio quality hound, and I was always telling other people to raise their quality, and it would always scare me out of recording videos, especially on inward-facing cameras on phones. And they've gotten to a point where it's just acceptable enough that, like, these live streams, you can listen to it, it sounds fine, and, like, nobody's complained about the audio being bad, because I don't think you would prefer me to be at a desk with a fucking microphone in front of my face. Just be a totally different type of live stream, and I wouldn't be able to do it all the time. So yeah, the fact that the technology is even there to sound decent like this definitely makes this content possible for me in a way it wouldn't have been in the past. How do I feel about the YouTube Shorts game? I don't really understand it. I don't watch YouTube Shorts because it takes too much effort. Leno P has me thinking about some of my favorite anime soundtracks right now. Made in Abyss, Dot Hack, Air Gear, Fully Cooley, Gits, and Showbits. All good. All good soundtracks. And I didn't even remember that Maya Sakamoto had a song in Record of Lodoss War. I haven't seen that shit since 2003. Actually, I did rewatch the first episode and I didn't like it very much. I'm pretty sure that show only gets good in like the second half. We got beans and bologna. Meat. I am starting to get hungry. The rain, well, it calmed down slightly, but it's still pretty bad. I would still get very soaked if I tried to go home right now. It's not that I'm that far away, or that I would hate being soaked that much, but I would definitely have to end the stream to walk through this amount of water, or else my phone would be at a risk. I think the iPhone might be waterproof somewhat, but like, you know, you're not gonna be able to see shit if it gets all wet. YouTube Shorts are good for impressions and amplifying, but not for the dollar or engagement. Every time I've done one, it's been a total crapshoot how many views it gets, and it takes a lot of effort to make them good. Like, because with the style of content I do, it only really translates to shorts if I do, like, the text on screen. And so it takes, like, you know, for 1 minute of constant dialogue, it take like half an hour just to type out every single fucking line of the thing. So, you know, if I'm looking at 45 minutes of editing and 30 minutes of like uploading to all the different fucking platforms and shit, an hour and a half of work on a short that like I don't care about, that's usually just like like anybody who's already keeping up with my videos has seen it because it's cut from the video. So it's only there to try to draw in new people, and so if it doesn't get views, it really feels like, wow, I wasted an hour and a half. And I think the only way they would be effective for me is if it was more like constant. Like if I put out a ton of shorts, eventually some of them would, you know, I've had some that get more views than others, but it's totally random. I got 17,000 views on Heroic Detectives in Anime short on one channel, 7,000 on the other channel, and then nothing has come close to that otherwise. Sometimes it's like hundreds, sometimes it's thousands. It's just totally unpredictable for me. You know, it would take a lot of exhausting effort to cut together as many shorts as I think would have an impact, and I have no idea how to quantify the monetary turnaround from that. You know, it's just discovery. And like, again, these live streams, I've been streaming for 2.5 hours and I've made over $100. So like, that's insanely more effective to me than editing shorts. So hard for me to find the inspiration to do something like that. But I know it would help. It would be one thing if I had a budget to pay somebody to edit them for me. But you know, I've made like lists of shorts that would be good ideas, like to cut from my videos. But every time I've edited one and then it doesn't get a lot of views, I'm just like, well, that was a fucking waste of time, you know. Somebody said Jesus loves you and was responded, loves Jesus you. Jesus Christ is my homie. I could always sell light novels. I don't know who is buying light novels. I know you would buy the light novel, Gary, always, but you've already given me more money in super chats in the last 2 weeks than the price of the light novel would be. So, you know, my one customer is already paying. I don't see much need to change what I'm selling you, even if you would prefer it. The Anituber Isekai light novel series. Yes, that is Kusomega. My Anituber Isekai light novel series. Trapped in my own shitty light novel after killing myself, so I might as well court the hot-ass goddess that summoned me. Or Kusomega for short. Phil said, oh shit, that's real? Yes, it is actually real. I do actually have an isekai light novel series you can find right here on the channel. If you go to the front page of the channel, there's a playlist called Important Videos, and they are the two books, two books and a preview of a third book are all up on the channel. It is not Lost Media. It's literally on the front page of the channel. Also, you can just go to kusomega.com and you'll find kusomega.com has the audiobooks, links to the text versions, and it has the fan art page. I don't know if this will actually load for you because it's like 200 Twitter embeds, but there is a shitload of Kusomega fan art, and I collected all of it up to a certain point on the website, kusomega.com. There's like an about page, some information about a physical release that I was working towards 4 years ago and have not worked towards at any point since because I could no longer afford to. But yeah, Kusomega is it's still there. You can search hashtag Kusomega to see most of the fan art. That is true. Yeah, if you go to YouTube, Gary Always is still making Kusomega fan art, almost exclusively of the character Libeli, the lolly goddess of metal, who was introduced in the Volume 3 preview that very few people have seen. So not a lot of people even know about this character, but Gary Always is obsessed with her and cannot stop drawing her in pixel art on Twitter. I think you are maybe the only person who has drawn Libeli, actually, other than me. There might be like one or two other people who have even attempted to draw the character. You are definitely the only fan. One other person has? Okay. Besides me, obviously. Drew the original design. Unless that's what you meant. But yeah, Kusomega, I made the mistake of, because it would be funny, making the scope increase dramatically with each book. And so when I started writing book 3, I realized I did not have enough perspective to write as many unique characters as were necessitated by the book. And so I decided I would continue it once I had met more people. And I think I'm probably ready now. I just haven't sat down and decided exactly what's going to happen. I know what's going to happen next. I know what's going to happen at the end, but I don't know most of what's in between there. You know, I've had the ending planned since Volume 2. And I have most of the key events in the story planned. It's just all of the other characters that have to be introduced to get there. What do they mean? Why are they there? Like, figuring out that kind of stuff. I think the challenge with Kusomega as a story is that there's no way to rely on like logic in terms of continuing the story. Like, there's no way to ask yourself, well, what would logically happen next? Because the story operates fundamentally on broken logic. So it's only about thematically what should happen next. Like, what needs to happen to make the characters change the way that they view the world such that they will take the next action to compel the story. That is the way. Maybe that's how writing usually is, but in this story in particular, the logic is just so fucked and broken. There's no way to just think like, well, what would normally happen next? It's like, no, what would these characters do next, you know? What is this? Bird just sent me a text about strange things happening in Virginia Beach. Watch that right now. It's a video. Crowdfund an anime. It would have to be so... The novel series would be so much more popular than it is. Like, it would need at least 10, 20 million views, you know, like in a YouTube sense, before I would even consider a conversation about it having an anime. Now, manga, different conversation. There are actually a bunch of unreleased short Kusomega 1 and 2 page manga, because when I was planning the physical release, I storyboarded like, I want to say like 30 pages worth of manga, and then I hired a bunch of artists to redraw them as proper. This is like my first experience storyboarding manga, and it went really well. So I've got a bunch of these little short Kusomega manga that like fill in just little details about all the side characters for the most part. I don't know if anyone has seen most of them except for the people who drew them. They're all in my head as part of the story, but I don't think any of them have been released in any context, so one day people will see the Kusomega comics. And I even had, because what I tend to do when I get really excited about a project I'm working on is to scope bloat it to fuck. So there was a period where I wanted to have a tie-in Kusomega game and Kusomega manga and like all these different ideas. I know that Gary always would lose his shit about this idea, but I wanted to do one just about the band. I don't remember what the fuck they're called. You know, the three students, Lively, Gil, and Daidoji, who are Takuma's students in Volume 3. I want to make like a slice of life manga just about their adventures, because they have really good chemistry and would be fun to write. Did they even have a name? I guess not. They're just... I mean, they eventually named the band, what was it? I Want to Kill People all the... all the stupid time or something like that. But yeah, that's my feature bloat ideas for my unfinished light novel, which is not even my favorite unfinished light novel that I have. The other one, none of it's been published, but there's another, well, I guess it's just a regular novel, but there's another novel that I started writing a few years ago that I am even more like, man, I really gotta finish that because it's so good. But I'm also similarly stuck in a place of like, I know what's supposed to happen next, but I don't know how I want it to happen, so I've just been stuck on it. But, you know, Dick Masterson said if it takes you more than 5 years, you should give up. So I have to finish both of these books. Kusomega, I'm like 1 year away from it being too long. Maybe 2 years since the last time since it's 2 years till it will have been 5 years since the last update. Yeah, no, yeah? Was it 2020 or 20? I think 2020. I think Chet Book 2 and 3 released in 2020. So making a book is probably a good way to make money. I don't think so. I don't think a lot of people make money writing. I think it's actually pretty rare to make any money, like any substantial income writing a book, especially these days. If I found a way to sell the audiobook, that maybe, or if I was able to turn it into, but like this is why I'm saying it would need, I think the best way Kusomega would succeed would be if I finished the book, re-released it using artwork from, like, the artwork that people have made for it that is actually really good, as opposed to my original artwork that it was released with. You know, there could be a physical sale in a limited run, but it would have to be crowdfunded to even release it. And then it would have to be, you know, some kind of profit after that. But the amount of effort it would take, I can't see how it could possibly be profitable. The comic era, says Klippa. Indeed. Well, that's why in comics, it's a lot easier to imagine making money off of comics than books, because it's a visual medium, and like in in this day and age that just translates so much more quickly. Like, how do I explain, like, if I try to make somebody understand the appeal of Kusamega, like, I could show them pictures of the characters that are hot or whatever, and maybe it'll catch their interest. But, like, you really have to read the first book to understand what is the appeal of the story. I can't just describe it easily. Other than, like, it's a parody of isekai about a light novel author who dies and gets sucked into the world of a light novel. Like, if that's a good enough hook, go read it. But, like, why is that, how is that executed well? You'd have to read the thing. So yeah, when it comes to comics, it's like, you can look at one picture of it and immediately understand what's cool about it. And with the Prickly storyboard, which is what Riley's talking about, what Klippa is talking about, excuse me, you know, Prickly is a comic that I storyboarded for Mint, where I really tried to make it so every spread is exciting. Like, you could open it to any page and you'll see something that immediately makes you understand what this comic is, you know? So, like, just, it's not particularly long, but, like, there's always an event, and there's always something happening that is in line, where, like, you go, okay, cool, yes, this is the comic I think it is, every step of the way, you know? I wanted it to feel hyper consistent with itself, so that, again, if you take one look at it, you get it. You just immediately get it. And I think that makes it a lot easier to sell to people, because, you know, you want to see the rest. Like, if you see that one image and you immediately think, oh, I have to see 10 more images like that, then you pay for it, you know? So that's why I think, you know, I could see having more success with comics, but I'm not a talented artist myself, so it's always going to come down to, can I sell storyboards to people who can draw, like Mint Salad? You know, it would take me a long time to develop the skills, I think, to draw something that I know people would pay for. I could draw stuff that I know people would like. I don't think I could draw something I know people would pay for on my own skills. But anyway, another super chat here, $5 from Duvet Boa. Do you have any thoughts on generative AI adjacent tech potentially being used in future anime productions and potentially displacing staff? This is tough for me when it comes to the whole AI thing. When any kind of tool comes out, any kind of technological tool, my reaction is excitement, because I'm always thinking about the potential of what can it be used for. I don't have a job that is threatened by AI. I can't imagine feeling threatened by AI. Like, I can't put myself into the shoes of, like, what type of job would I have where I am so replaceable that AI could replace me, you know? In the world of animation, like, I'm sure there are uses for AI that maybe will displace artists, but I can't imagine it'll be used to make anything good, or that, like, people will be happy with it. It's just, like, it would be foolish to displace artists with AI. So if it happens, it will probably have been for dumb reasons, you know? I don't like to be, I'm not anti-AI the way a lot of people are, just out of pocket. Like, people see it as this existential threat to the arts, and I don't. I see it as a tool that will be used to enhance the arts. So, but again, I struggle to look at this from the perspective of being worried that I would lose my job over AI. That's a real hard one for me. So, I guess I would need to see it happening and then be upset about how it's happening. You know, I would have to see. Again, I can't imagine it being like, if the result of it was good, would anybody even be mad? Like, if AI was so good that you could generate animations with it, you could look at it as it's going to displace animators. I think it would just create way more animation. Like, if the means of production are more evenly distributed, why wouldn't that just lead to more people doing animation, more ideas getting realized? The problem is that AI isn't good enough. It doesn't generate products that people want. It doesn't generate, at least not enough. I mean, right now it's so weirdly sided. Where like there's tons of cool stuff being done with AI that people won't acknowledge because it's AI, which really sucks, you know. So for me, it's kind of like I'm waiting for the controversy to blow over and for people to just accept this is a fact of life. Like, I'm sure there's going to be some sort of regulations on AI at some point, particularly in replicating people's styles, people's voices, you know, intellectual property. But I just think trying to be like whole ass anti AI is just going to make you look really silly when technology keeps progressing, you know, and people start. Eventually, there's going to be young people who couldn't have done the amazing thing they're going to have done without AI, and the conversation's going to change. It's just going to have to happen. Some fucking impoverished 16-year-old with no arms is going to describe something beautiful to ChatGPT that makes everyone weep, and then we're never going to FUD AI again, you know? How is my day going? It's going pretty good. I've been making a lot of super chat money out here. The rain scared everybody else out of the park for the most part, so you know, it's pretty chill out here. I got pretty wet. I wouldn't mind having a drink. My lips are pretty parched, and I'm kind of hungry, but I think all I've really got at the house that I wouldn't have to like cook is a Jamaican beef patty, which does sound delicious, but I think I could wait a little while longer before I ate that. It's kind of heavy. Anybody here eat Jamaican beef patties? Any of y'all had like Golden Craft? I think that's the brand I've got right now. There's a few brands. They're fucking so good. The spicy ones. I don't know who gets the non-spicy or the jerk chicken flavors, because when I go to Walmart, I will clear out the spicy patties, and if I don't clear them out, somebody else already has, and there's always a ton of the other ones. You're not allowed to eat them. Yeah, that sucks. I could understand. They definitely give, like, if I were to eat more than one, and Bird has done this many times, we get heartburn. It will definitely give you heartburn. In a right jiffy, but they're fucking good. You didn't know they were Jamaican? The ones that I get just say Jamaican beef patty on them. That's why I call them that. Maybe the next Makoto Shinkai will get their big break with a shitty independent AI anime. Maybe. I mean, I think the appeal of Shinkai in the beginning was that he handmade it all. I think with AI, it's only going to be accepted when it's used to create something beautiful by somebody who could not have done it. And, like, the reality is, nobody who's using AI could be like, if you could draw good, you would just be doing it. Like, I know that we all want to say, like, anybody can get better, but, like, you can get better at doing your art, but you can't just create anything that enters your imagination. And AI unlocks the potential towards that realization that we should all be fucking excited about. You shouldn't want to be locked into your art style for the rest of your life. You should be, like, glad that there's something that's going to let you realize imaginations you just could not realize otherwise. And I think spitting in the face of that is just so fucking short-sighted, because people are trying to protect the business model that they already have in place that's already been failing them, that they already should be trying to fight against and change, but they get comfortable as soon as they have any success. Most people, in most situations, I mean. Not just artists. Alright, I gotta stop ranting about stuff I don't get super chatted to rant about. I'm giving it away for free. What am I doing? It's a big mistake. Pork burgers. I had a bunch of burnt ends yesterday. That shit was good as fuck. It's like blackened pork belly. Very popular out in Missouri. I'm gonna take a piss somewhere over off camera. I'm back. So here's where I'm at right now. Alright, this has been a great stream so far. I've been going for about 3 hours. I made like 120 bucks. It's pretty comfortable. I like that. Now, on the one hand, I have time that I could stream for hours more. But on the other hand, I am hungry and thirsty. And I could continue streaming from back at the house, because there is a room available for me to stream in right now. The only problem is that whenever I say that I'm going to stream again later, I never do. I always end up doing something else. And there's plenty of other things I could be doing. I've got an anime video I've got to edit. I've got a new rap single to put out. I've got, you know, Picnic Adventure, the movie, to continue editing. Haven't been able to work on in a little while. You know, I've got stuff. I could be working on Prickly. I could be working on all kinds of fucking things. But none of those things would make me as much money as doing this live stream. On the other hand, though, the super chats have slowed down. So maybe if I rebooted, there would be a slight audience shift and people would show up with money. There's so many factors to consider when you're trying to decide if you interrupt your live stream and maybe come back later. But the main fear, do the other stuff on the live stream. I could. The problem is I don't want to film myself going home. I want to cut the camera, go home, and then continue live streaming from home. My fear is that I will simply go home, get comfortable, and not live stream again. So I have to figure out why, because I've already exhausted the subjects I came into this live stream with. Alright, I'll start. I have a super chat here for $5 from Justice. Thank you very much. Have you heard of Comic Zone for Sega Genesis? It's about an American comic book artist getting sucked into his comic and having to fight his way out. I have heard of that. I haven't seen much of it. Isn't it kind of... I keep picturing Chalk Zone in my head. I'm pretty sure that has like the same concept, but I do believe I've heard of Comic Zone, but I have not played it or like watched gameplay of it. It looks like the chat is saying it's good, so maybe I should look into it a little bit more. I never had a Genesis. I had some friends who had a Genesis, and the only games I remember for it were Sonic and ToeJam and Earl, which was neat. ToeJam and Earl has great music. I would totally rap over the whole ToeJam and Earl soundtrack. Put the single out if it's the one you sent me the other day. That shit was heat. It is. I uploaded it to Spotify yesterday, so as soon as it hits Spotify and Apple Music, which will probably be tomorrow morning, I have a lyric video already edited, so I'll put it up on, you know, YouTube and Twitter and Instagram or whatever. But I figured I would wait for it to be out on Spotify so that people could, you know, hear the song and immediately be able to listen to it on whatever streaming platform they want. The song is called By Daybreak, so when you see By Daybreak pop into your feed, that is the song that you heard right here from Sarah Louise, who, by the way, was the producer for most of Gay and Dead, says is heat. So that's how you know that you should be excited. It was Sarah who said that, right? I've lost the chat. I've lost where you said that in chat. I swear I just read out loud it was heat. There we go, I found it. Okay, yeah. Time to read Shimeji Simulation. People keep recommending me that. It seems really heavy, though. It seems like really, like, sad and, I don't know if I want to read that. Looks kind of depressing. Looks kind of heavy. I don't know if I got that in my heart right now. It's comfy? Alright. I guess I can read something comfy. Can I get shout out? What do you want shout out for? Like, you just want me to read your name? You're subscribed? Well, shout out for being subscribed. ASMR Luca Boy? I think that's how your name's read. Shout out subscribers, I guess. For $5. Yes, I mean, I would charge for shout outs, but you know, I feel like first time askers get a freebie. You know, I've never seen this name before. Shout out for being alive. One day Trixie will leave the DN zone. What is the DN zone? The D's nut zone? Shout out to money. Hell yeah. Do I have any entirely new projects, not anime or music related, that I'm cooking up? Depends on your definition of entirely new. But the Picnic Adventure movie, that's probably the one. I mean, and also Prickly, the comic book. Like, neither of those has any existence so far. So, you know, Prickly will probably take till much later in the year to get done because Mint's busy with a lot of stuff. She's planning to change the structure of how she does her reviews in October so that she'll have more time to draw. So, you know, I'm expecting Prickly to enter more heavy development towards the end of the year. Picnic Adventure movie will not be actually too hard to finish. I'm probably going to turn Picnic Adventure into a film series, kind of like the way that a lot of anime are now. So that instead of it being like just individual adventure videos, it will be like a series of themed movies about like you know, whole summers and stuff like that, as opposed to independent small videos. But I've edited like the first half hour or so of the first Picnic Adventure movie, and it's very fun. How do I have such good internet connection in the woods? 4G, baby. I'm not deep in the woods. If you look in front of me, I'm at a park. I'm at a park that's basically in a neighborhood. So it's, yeah, I'm not like in an obscure location or anything like that. Hey, Victoria Ray Alert with $5. Good to see you. I still haven't watched the video part of this stream, so if you left to go eat, I could listen to the gender discourse. Well, that's fair. So you're saying that if I go and stop for a while, you can go back to the stream and listen to the part that the video stream is titled after. The truth is, the gender discourse went for like an hour and a half, so so you might not have time to hear all of it. I really poured out quite a bit. I don't know if I got to everything I had in mind beforehand, but I definitely poured out a lot of gender discussion on this here live stream. I really thought dumped. And it's you know, on the subject of the gender war and feeling like I'm on both sides just because I like both sides, and that can be it's a problem for people who have such a stock in keeping their division, you know. I understand everybody needs to have boundaries and like what they consider to be acceptable or unacceptable, but I think, you know, forgiveness and understanding also takes you a long way. And I think that the genders, there's a lot of division, a lot of unnecessary division that I think negatively impacts a lot of people There's somebody doing a very, very, very strange turnaround in their car in front of me right now. Like, they pulled up on the curb trying to do a U-turn. This person does not know how to drive. You love to see it. Trixie, need a link tree for real, for real? I guess I do. I guess I do need a link tree. And then I could hook my... I need a link tree and a Streamlabs, and I need them hooked together. That's probably a good idea. Wish you saw that. Yeah, I didn't want to, like, film them. I mean, it wasn't... It was, like, right in front of me, so it would have been a pretty easy to see, but it wasn't, like, that funny. It was just kind of embarrassing. I'm glad that you said that because I got here really late and I've been assuming that the topic of being a gender double agent was permeating every other topic that came up here. No, yeah, I brought it up mostly, like the first hour and a half was heavily talking about the gender discussion, but we've been going for a long time, so I've kind of moved past it, but, that would be another good reason to stop and restart the stream, is I could just change the title and start off on a different topic. It's just a matter of thinking of another topic. Like you might have noticed, in between the super chats, I've kind of been going blank, because I exhausted the main subject matter I had, and now I feel like I need to switch gears if I want to get onto another. I know I had lots of other shit I was thinking about today. I know I had, like, it tends to be that as I spend the first part of my day, I have like 3 different general ideas of what today's live stream might be. It's like today's live stream might be a big gender discussion, might be a big hip-hop discussion, or it might be, you know, like a general philosophical, but like there's usually a couple options. I just don't remember what the other ones were. Big thank you to Yakuman with £5. No message, just £5. I appreciate it. If you forgot the message, just type it and I'll read it anyway. Because I know that happens to people sometimes. Glad you're enjoying the rain as background noise. I was worried it was... Because before it was raining, it was just really windy. And I was worried that the audio was going to suck if I tried to record outside. But once I got here to the trees really did a great job of shielding me from the wind and rain for the most part. But eventually the rain just got too heavy. And it's still pretty bad. I still don't want to walk in it. So, that's if anything is keeping me from ending the stream and walking home, it's mostly that the rain is still pretty bad. I will have to walk for close to 10 minutes uncovered on my way home, so I would get thoroughly fucking soaked if I tried to head home right now. Am I going to continue Animal Well? Maybe. The main reason I haven't done another stream of Animal Well is that although it was really fun to play the game, I didn't make a ton of money while doing it, and it has the fewest playbacks of any of the live stream VODs. Like, almost all of these streams have gotten close to 2,000 views, except for that one was at like 1,000. So I just figured not enough people want to see me play it for me to do it as a live stream show over just being live myself. But there's also, the reason I haven't just gone back to playing the game is that I never found that fucking controller cord. If you watched that stream, I was talking about the only PC compatible controller I have is an Xbox One controller that for some ungodly reason has a proprietary micro USB cord that is either buried somewhere in the car or at the ASE Presents studio. I'm not sure which, but it's not in my shit. So I was playing the game with keyboard and it's not, it just doesn't feel right playing it with keyboard. I really want to play it with a controller. Alright, another $5 Canadian from Your Stuff Is Cool says, teach us Japanese. Ah, Nihongo desu ka? まあそのまあそう何それはいそうはいあのそりゃあのあでもそれ That's how you speak Japanese. See you, Ellen, and stay gay. That being said, you should play Elden Ring DLC on that stream when it comes out. That gives you time to get a better controller. I still have to beat Elden Ring. I know it's only like in a month till the DLC. I never beat the second major... Renala, the witch? Is that her name? Renala? Not Ronnie, but her mom? Never beat Renala. So I'm like less than halfway into Elden Ring. So I think I would have to do that before I play the DLC. Now I could stream myself playing all of Elden Ring, maybe. But again, I don't know if it'll be as successful as this. I don't know if people really want to watch me play video games like that. I don't know why. You would watch me play Elden Ring so hard. I'm sure some people will. I mean, I'll give it a shot. I'll at least we'll give it a test run. Maybe that's what I'll do tonight. I actually could do this tonight. I think I'd have to... I might have to reinstall it, but it might be installed... I don't know if Bird has it installed on his laptop, but he's not around. So if I could play Elden Ring on his laptop, that would actually be a good experience. But then I'd have my save files there. No, I just gotta reinstall it on my laptop, but maybe I'll do that. I would only have time to probably play, like, a little bit of it tonight. At the very least, I'll get it ready. Alright, we've got another super chat here from Duve Boa for $5. Not really a question, but isn't it hilarious? Masamune Shirow dropped one of the greatest works of speculative sci-fi and now only draws softcore porn. I mean, wouldn't you? I feel like, I think everybody... As an artist, like, the most appealing thing is to just be able to do whatever you want, but also to be able to sort of coast on your baseline, that, like, if whatever you just do because you like doing it is, like, enough to be a career, you don't want to have to do any more than that, you know? Like, I think it's really hard to get people's attention without telling a compelling story, unless your art style is, like, really truly unique. And in Shirow Masamune's case, I think it probably took some time for him to develop enough of that voice, but like Ghost in the Shell being such a massive franchise has always ensured that people will pay attention to that guy and consider his work as like serious business. But it's just because the quality of the work and the uniqueness of the work, it stands out to a point where, like, if you find out about Masamune Shirow and you like that art, you will buy that art regardless of it having, like, story beyond what's present in the images individually. I think you can easily undercredit Masamune Shirow because he's done tons of concept work. I don't think he likes writing stories that much. I think he likes world building and talking about technology. So he's been involved on the production side of... Like, he's done a lot of work with other people to do conceptual stuff. So, like, Pandora and the Crimson Shell. He did the story concept with the guy who created Excel Saga. You've got... Oh, I had another example in mind just a minute ago. That one with all the thick girls in it. RD, Real Drive. I don't know how many people have even watched or remember that, but he conceptualized that. So... Yeah, he's done world building stuff for other shows, but he's just never created like another whole ass story driven manga in a long time. But I can't blame him, you know. If your art is good enough, why do more? And I'm hoping people will feel that way about these live streams. Like, I hope, because this is what I consider sort of my baseline, is literally just talking at a camera. There's no production, there's no any extra shit. It's just like, if I can talk at a camera and whatever I say like has as much impact as it would if I did editing or tried to tell a more particular story, or even just enough impact where like maybe it's not as much as that would have, but it resonates with enough people that I can make a career off of it, I wouldn't then tax myself to try to, you know, do unnecessary extra work to be more popular if I already was making enough money doing the stuff that's just fun and, and baseline, you know. You said the one with the thick girls and I'm immediately interested. Yeah, Real Drive. I think that's what it was called. RD Senno Chohitsu or something like that. It was like 28 episodes made by Production IG, 26 episodes made by Production IG in like 2007. And very few people watched it, but it had some of the best animated fight scenes with real thick women that you'll ever see. I'm making more money than DoorDashers by talking. It's true. But I don't want to ever exhaust any singular people who donate. You know, for a lot of people, it's sort of special because maybe this is the first one you've caught live, or you just got a big promotion, you have a lot of money, but like I can't rely on the same few people to always donate to the stream. So it'll be really interesting to see if I keep doing this every day, you know, does it draw in new people? Does it, you know, like somebody like Poor Butthole Weeb, who again had been donating to the streams, and I know for a fact he cannot afford to do it today, and I will encourage him not to. You know, don't do it if you can't do it. But we'll see how much more money I can make than DoorDashers long term doing this. Plenty of people make their whole career out of live streaming. There's no reason to think I can't be one of those people. What is holding me back? What do they got that I don't, other than good looks? The guy I gave a shout out to seems new and gave money. I don't think he did give money. I believe he just gave a shout out. And I told him I would do it even though he didn't pay me. But you know, that's fine. Maybe he will eventually. He did? Really? ASMR guy? Gave me $1? Wait, did I miss this? Where did I miss this? I'm going back up. I'm transpiring back up. I see Yakuman. I see Victoria. Oh, okay, yeah. He gave me the 79 cent, 79 pound, or cents of a pound. I might have not even registered, that he had done that, because it was, I think the thought I had was that it was really funny that it read as 79 cents, which I guess must be £1, or $1 is maybe, is their money worth more than ours right now? Good looks, something I have that most of them don't. Oh, that's very sweet of you. It's not true. I know the streamers are usually beautiful people. I just wear cool shirts. I wear cool shirts and hang out in cool environments to compensate for my lack of tits. That's crazy that pound is healthier than the dollar right now. I know it wasn't like that, like, not too long. Or maybe the pound is healthier and not the euro. Maybe I'm just getting those confused. I can't remember. I feel like there was a time not too long ago where the dollar was stronger than the pound. Not a good time to go to England for an American. Apparently, it's a great time to go to Japan. I've been hearing that ever since COVID, the yen has been like so much weaker than the dollar that you can name one better looking streamer, Mint Salad. You ever watched Mint Salad streams? It's like this whole section of the video is just tits. Like this whole entire block is just rocking tits on every Mint Salad stream. All of the space that I have taken up with a cool shirt, there would just be tits there on a Mint Salad stream. Pound has always been stronger. Okay, well, I'm probably just thinking of the euro then. 200 yen is like $1.28 now. Oh my god, that's brutal. Jesus Christ. Yeah, great time to go to Japan. I would not mind taking a trip there at some time soon. Like, it would cost me a lot to fly there, but the actual cost of living, I assume, would be lower than it is here, based on that conversion. You like men and yen. It's true. I do like men and yen. Wide man on the right, you are so correct. I've never seen your name before. I just love the thought that like you came in and that was like immediately the impression just laid on the table. This person likes men and yen. Gary always says, gotta go meditate. See you tomorrow or whenever. Good luck with the meditation. Find your center. And blow it to pieces with a rocket launcher. Holy fuck, Digibro, is that you? I haven't seen you in like 10 years. Not anymore. I'm Trixie the Golden Witch now. I gender transitioned like 4 years ago and stopped using the Digibro name. But people are constantly rediscovering me every single day. Every time I make any piece of content, there's somebody who has not seen me in 10 years who's finding it for the first time. I don't know how it happens. YouTube's algorithm works in the most mysterious of ways. But literally every day, I get told by somebody that it's the first time they've seen me in years. What's been over there on the right the entire time? Oh, the man on the right. Yeah. Change your name to DigiHo. That way it's close enough. Well, initially I did change it to DigiNay, which is my attempt to like feminize the name without losing the branding. It just didn't work. It was just brand confusion and chaos, so I just fucking cut it off. And it's worked out for me. You know, all it really takes is telling people, hey, it's Trixie now. Japan is generally not that expensive of a place. That is, I know that like the cost of rent is high, but the cost of food is very low, which is very cool. I don't know what it costs to camp. Like, if I wanted to go to campgrounds and stay outside of Tokyo, I don't know what that would cost. I know it's relatively cheap to just do, like, a hostel or, I don't know, sleep in the fucking sleeping pods they've got and shit. The Pusha with Australian $2. Thanks you. Thoughts on Sames Jummerton and Keffel's dramas? Assume you mean James Somerton, but that's funny misspelling. Oh man, I don't know anything about Keffel's drama. I know she's got all kinds of dramas. I don't know what if there's a current one. I haven't heard about it. James Somerton has been a really fun story for me to watch unfold. Kind of a crazy, crazy train wreck. Cause I was just a casual fan of James Somerton. I just watched his videos. Like, so okay. My take on James Somerton before the drama was this guy really wants to get laid through these videos. Like, he really tried to be like sanctimonious is a word for it, but, and there's a little bit of like a holier than thou, but all from like a, like, I'm a good little boy, you know, like, just very, a lot of twink energy, exploding out of him. And I always viewed his videos as like, this guy wants to be iconic in the gay community so that he can get all the tail he wants, or, you know, get his tail taken as much as he wants, however you want to look at it. Like, I just looked at it as, this guy wants respect more than he cares about the subject matters that he's talking about. He's like looking for subjects that will get him respect and notoriety within the community and talking about them, which I was fine with. This did not bother me. It wasn't until Todd in the Shadows made the video where he pointed out how, like, a tremendous amount of it is just made up bullshit with no foundation in reality that I was like, well, like, it's not that I took his videos as, like, fact or was, like, going around repeating things he had said, but it was definitely a trip to be like, wow, I can't believe I didn't... You know, I just thought he was, like, being a little extreme sometimes. Like, sometimes he would say something and I'd be like, I don't know if it really happened like that, but whatever. But, like, some of the stuff that Todd pointed out is like, wow, you really whole cloth, like, made up contradictory information about history to support your points, and pretty much all the stuff he made up was, like, the glue in between the stolen stuff. It's like everything he did was either plagiarized or bullshit. So, looking at it that way, it's like, wow, I'm really gonna forget anything you talked about, James. But now I'm looking at him as a fascinating internet lolcow, right? This is a person who has shown their true colors as, like, this very deeply sociopathic, like, psychopathic, like, the behavior is psychopathic from James Somerton, of convincing the internet that he killed himself, going into hiding, you know, reappearing months later like nothing happened, continuing to try to play the victim. It's just like, bruh, this person is fucking funny to watch unfold. And, like, obviously no one's ever going to take him seriously again as, like, a culture critic, but there's no reason to think that he won't just try to do something else, just, like, reemerge as a new character. I want to see where he goes with it. I hope he becomes, like... I think James Somerton is in a unique opportunity to have a deliberately evil or, like, dark presence online. One of my favorite Somerton videos, not even that it was well argued, but just the idea of it, was about Brandon Rogers and the idea of problematic queers. Like, people who are representing the, you know, the darker, the more, well, not even darker, but just, like, the less carefully manicured side of being queer. And it's very clear that James Somerton wanted to be edgier, that he wanted to be pushing the envelope, but is so obsessed with acceptance within the culture that he wasn't really willing to go all the way. But now that everyone thinks he's a villain anyway, he should just go full hog, Disney queen, evil, like, you know, be just a fucking cunt. Like, I would love to see problematic James Somerton trying to create like a just the worst group of queers, you know? Like, if we could get if he got together a posse of just all the most problematic queers and they started making stuff together, and that would be fucking hilarious. So that's my take. That's my take on Somerton. Did I get super chatted to rant about that, or did I just go off because... Okay, I did. Thank God. I was like... I just ranted for so long. If I did it for free, I would be mad at myself. Why are you counting days till Christmas? Who is this Jordan Rayner? What is going on? You're getting banned. I don't know what your deal is, but this guy's just spamming how many days until Christmas. A lot. It's May. Some memes, I don't know if they're meant to make sense. I'm just meant to stare at it and go, well, that sure is a thing you're doing. The man likes Christmas? I guess so. The rain has picked up again. It's 7 o'clock. The sky is beginning to dim. I don't know how long I'm allowed to be in this park, actually. I don't know how late. It's probably like a sundown closure thing. I see the park's truck driving around. There's other people walking around. You hear the train? Did you hear? You hear that? Planes, trains, automobiles, and boats. That's what it means to live in Norfolk. You get all of it. Maximum the transportation. Good night, Necromancer. Thank you for banning Jordan. I'll consider it an early Christmas gift from you to the community. Yeah, that guy was being annoying. I think I've had to ban at least one person every stream I do. Usually it's for transphobia, though, not insistently asking when Christmas is. Oh, I thought there was a plane overhead, but it's just a guy driving by with his sub bass turned up too high. Or no? No, it is a plane. Maybe it was both. Look. That is such a loud plane sound. Where can you buy the Guru shirt? I seriously don't. Here we go. Swami Tsunami. There we go. Swami Tsunami seems to be the name of the artist. I literally bought this from the artist at their booth at Otakon like 4 or 5 years ago. Laputia with Australian $2. Should SJ still make a movie? I assume you're talking about Stuttering John. And, or do you mean Sames Jummerton? Was he planning to make, you keep saying his name like that, which just makes it confusing. Was he planning to make a movie? I didn't hear about James Somerton planning to make a movie. No. No one should try to make a movie if they're an amateur, unless they really know what they're doing, which thank God James Somerton's spot blew up before he could start a fucking crowdfunding campaign to make a movie, because that's just a classic way for internet people to take your money, you know? But, no. James Somerton should not make a movie. He should just... He needs a clique. He needs to fall in with some people who think it's based that he faked his suicide. He needs to fall in with a clique of, like, real fucking assholes. That's what I want. He did set up a crowdfunding for his movie. Well, yeah, that sounds right. I must have forgotten this part of the story. I definitely didn't see the advertising for it or anything. Yeah, there's no fucking way that I would trust James Somerton with my money after all this. Like, no way. The only way I would be giving James Somerton money would be if I was somebody who was investing in him because I knew how I was going to make a turnaround from whatever he was about to do, you know? If I knew a way that I could... Like, James Somerton is clearly willing to lie for attention, so there's gotta be a fun way to take advantage of that, you know? Like, there's gotta be somebody who could lead that to an interesting or effective climax. Yakuman with £5. Bitches always ask, when will you read Umineko? But what I want to know is, when will you read Poetic/Prose Edda, the book Yggdrasil is from? Oh, wow. I have not even fucking heard of it. I assume that's some Norse mythology shit. I don't know, is it like parsable? Is it written like religious text? Is it like really annoying and hard to read? Because then I probably won't. I learned about Yggdrasil, as they pronounced it in the game, from Tales of Symphonia. That's where I think my first real exposure to Norse mythology, like just the names and concepts of it, was Tales of Symphonia, because everything is just for no particular reason named after Norse mythology in the Tales of series. But, you know, they had a world tree, they called it Yggdrasil, and, I always thought that was really cool. And then, you know, I found out it's this concept, like the concept of a world tree is transcendent of culture. It is not unique to Norse mythology, but calling it Yggdrasil is. But, you know, I chose the tree image more so because it is so ubiquitous that, like, you can find world tree merchandise practically anywhere, but, like, I'm just kind of associating it to this abbreviation, YGG, that I am taking ownership of, like, this one concept of a world tree. You know, not Yggdrasil itself, but a abbreviated form of it. It's my world tree. Counting up all the loose ends in the world tree, spiraling out on an infinite journey, seeing my body from space and returning back to you fucks to pretend to be learning. I can't get no fade going when I can't relate to the basic big shit all you bitches consume every day. Drinking the Kool-Aid, talking how you love the taste. All I drink is AIDS, get me out this fucking place. That's from Cyber Slum Overture, from my album The World Over. My most underrated project, in my opinion. The concept of world trees probably predates civilization. For all we know, trees have a god. For all we know, the trees all believe in one super tree. Oh, I did remember what another one of the stream subjects. I thought about making this the Truth About Cows stream. There's another world line in which this was not a gender stream at all. How many fucking trains and planes am I gonna have to goddamn hear at once? Really? All of it at the same time? This is how you end up with schizophrenia. To the question of whether I like non-anime rom-coms, I can't really think of one. I'm sure conceptually I would, but I can't. Oh, can you see that? Damn it, got too far away. Fuck! It's another one of those weird little... The planes that they fly here, they're all from this base nearby. They all have this gigantic disc on the top of them. They're like relatively small planes, but they look like big drones. Don't know where they are. I live in a U.S. logistics hub, and this is my background sound effects all day long. Yeah, this is Norfolk. We have some of the biggest shipyards. We build ships here. They literally build ships in Norfolk. And we have in Virginia Beach and Norfolk, there are like several naval, army, and air force bases. So we got all of it. It's basically the cradle of the United States. Like, this is where the settlers first landed. You know, Jamestown Colony is like half an hour up the river from where I am. So this is basically where America started. This swamp. That is like right directly behind me. You can't really tell. That is water. This is just like a finger, probably a finger of the James River, just splitting off through this neighborhood. But when I say looking for a fight, you'll have to find me in the forest in Northside Norfolk Ward Corner near the water of the James. I really mean it. Hope you have an umbrella or a raincoat. Not at all. I've got this big shirt to get me through. It's a little wet already on the shoulders. I don't know that this rain is going to let up at all, though, so I will probably have to walk home in it before it gets dark. I'm still doing great on battery life, so theoretically I could stream. But I do think this park will close when it's sundown, so probably at 8 o'clock. 7:15 now, and I am hungry. What do y'all think? Is it time for me to run through the rain? I can run pretty fast. I don't know if it's... Actually, I probably shouldn't run. Don't get that shirt messed up. I can't find it online at all. I think mine might have like a small stain on it somewhere, so it's not in perfect condition, but considering how much people love the shirt, if it is in fact rare, I will have to take good care of it, as it will eventually be priceless merch of mine. That's a deep tier reference. Alright, I don't see any super chats coming in. So I'm thinking it might be about time to wrap it up and go running through the rain. There's no driving, I walked here. There will be no driving home stream as I walked. It was only drizzling when I showed up here nearly 4 hours ago. And now it is a full downpour. I knew this would happen. I just wanted to see if I could find safety from the rain, and I did. Now I know that if I come to this park, I can stream in the rain, and it's actually pretty cool because nobody's fucking around. The rain protects my voice from carrying, so even like people who are maybe a couple stalls to the left or right or in their cars, they're not going to be paying attention to me. So actually, I might come here every time it rains, but not by foot and without a means of getting back. Does constantly bouncing your legs give you the strongest legs on the planet? No, it's not. It doesn't work out your legs really at all. My legs are short. They don't weigh very much. I did 50 squats the other day in a row. That's why I run so fast, maybe. I don't run that fast. I run fast for being not in shape or a runner. Alright. This is it. Maybe I'll stream more when I get back home after I eat. If I do, it probably won't be for nearly as long, though. But more likely, I'm just gonna go work on editing some shit. So, thanks for coming out. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye!